Chapter 840. Sir, Yuan Chong, who was in a light sleep, heard the commotion and hurriedly jumped into the carriage. He found Xingjing in his undergarments, curled up with a pained expression. Sir! Don't make a sound, Xingjing interrupted Yuan Chong, breathing heavily. In no time, his forehead was covered in sweat, sliding down his cheeks and neck to his collarbone. Yuan Chong did not dare to disobey Xingjing. Suppressing his panic, he turned around and got out of the carriage, driving away the guards who had rushed over. Everyone, keep up the vigil. Don't let go of any suspicious person. After doing this, he hurriedly returned to the carriage. By then, Xingjing had barely recovered his kneeling position, but his face was still very pale. Sir, what happened? Yuan Chong half knelt on the ground, eager to help the swaying Xingjing. However, just as his hand reached out, Xingjing pushed it away. It was at this moment that Yuan Chong noticed a large patch of black marks crawling over Xingjing's right hand. Sir! Xingjing's face was flushed, his breathing heavier and heavier. His cheeks were slightly swollen from exertion, and he looked to be in great pain. I'm fine. Pushing Yuan Chong away, Xingjing took a moment to suppress the heart-wrenching pain. The fine veins that covered his eyes gradually faded. Heng Shu, when you came in just now, did you see anyone suspicious? Xingjing found it difficult to speak. He had to pant heavily to say 2 words, and even when he did, his speech was somewhat slurred. How could Yuan Chong remain calm when he saw Xingjing in this state? He looked around in panic, carefully searching through his memories, but did not see the suspicious person that Xingjing mentioned. From the moment Xingjing called out his name to the moment he rushed into the carriage, only a breath or 2 had passed. With such a short interval, unless it was a demon or ghost, it was impossible for an ordinary person to fly away under his nose. No, I was keeping watch outside just now, but I didn't see any suspicious figures. After saying this, Yuan Chong saw Xingjing's unsheathed sword beside him, the blade still stained with fresh blood. Sir, you're injured? No wonder Xingjing was in so much pain. Xingjing raised his right hand, his wide sleeve sliding down to his elbow, revealing most of his fair arm. Yuan Chong stared at Xingjing's arm and his scalp went numb. He saw a mass of something that looked like thick ink wriggling on Xingjing's arm. At first, it was only a small piece, but it soon became a large piece. He had never seen such a fantastical scene before. This. Mister. Could it be the mister who was injured by demons? Yuan Chong was so anxious that his cheeks were flushed, and his back was covered in cold sweat. Xingjing said, I don't talk about strange powers and gods. Don't spout nonsense. If he was a demon, how could I have hurt him so easily? After saying that, he looked at the sword beside him with a solemn expression. The sharp blade was still stained with blood that was gradually darkening. Yuan Chong was surprised, and the way he looked at Xingjing changed. Scholars practiced the 6 arts of the nobleman: etiquette, music, archery, imperial strategy, calligraphy, and mathematics. To them, carrying a sword was more ornamental than practical. To scholars, the significance of a sword was the same as jewelry to women. However, this didn't mean that they couldn't fight. In fact, those scholars who could roam outside were all capable of both literature and martial arts. They might not be able to defeat generals, but they had no problem dealing with ordinary people. Yuan Chong calmed himself down and asked, Mister, do you feel any discomfort? My head hurts a little, but it's nothing serious. I stabbed that assassin. Get someone to follow the blood trail. Xingjing raised his hand and pulled down his sleeve, covering the ugly, strange, jet-black mark. Recalling the fragrance of cosmetics, the woman he saw during the day floated into his mind, and he became more vigilant. Mister's hand. Do you want to find a doctor to take a look? Seeing Xingjing's calm reaction, Yuan Chong's panic that was growing like a vine in his heart also diminished. Someone who could be injured by Xingjing naturally couldn't be a demon. Since it wasn't a demon, there was no need to be afraid. Perhaps there was a traitor in the convoy, and the 2 of them worked together, so Yuan Chong didn't notice any suspicious person in his panic? Not for now. Qing Jing's expression was solemn, and he waved his hand weakly. That person will come back. Increase the patrols. Qing Jing was injured in front of Yuan Chang's eyes. This was a great humiliation to him. However, he couldn't let the same thing happen a second time. Yuan Chang said firmly, "Yes, don't worry, mister. I will definitely guard this place to the death and not let any suspicious person escape." This night was destined to not be peaceful. Yuan Chang didn't dare to sleep, and the other guards didn't dare to let their guard down. In the latter half of the night, Qing Jing was so tired that he couldn't help but close his eyes to take a nap. If it was any other day, Qing Jing would have a dreamless night until dawn, but today was different. Dreams came one after another. Rather than calling them dreams, they were more like memories of childhood, adolescence, and youth. Most of them were experiences that left a deep impression on him. However, Qing Jing felt that the dreams were a little strange. For no reason, there was an unknown person beside him. Who was this person? In the dream, Qing Jing was puzzled. Looking at the figure, it should be a woman. A fragrant wind lingered around her, and her footsteps swayed gracefully. An ethereal voice rang in his ears, "She's your lord, your benefactor, your best friend. She's someone you can never betray." Qing Jing was sleeping soundly, but his brows were furrowed, and he kept resisting the voice in his heart. What nonsense. When the carriage was filled with a hazy light, Qing Jing slowly woke up, and his 5 senses gradually returned to him. Just as he was about to get up, his head felt like it was going to explode. "Heng Shu!" he called out. In the next second, the curtain of the carriage was lifted, and Yuan Chong bent down to enter. "Any news?" Yuan Chong knew what Qing Jing was asking about, and he said guiltily, "I'm ashamed, and I've learned something." "Forget it. After a short rest, we'll continue our journey." Qing Jing's brows were furrowed, and his fingers subconsciously rubbed his temples. He said hoarsely, "Finish this as soon as possible, so that the Lord doesn't have to wait for too long. She's your lord, your benefactor, your best friend. She's someone you can never betray." Not only in his dreams, but even when he was awake, the voice rang in his ears like a ghost. Qing Jing didn't tell Yuan Chong about these details. Instead, he stared at the mark on his right hand, and there was a hint of ruthlessness in his eyes. On the other side, the person who had been stabbed by Qing Jing was also full of anxiety. Because Qing Jing was a scholar, his sword was always sheathed at his waist. She had been careless for a moment, and did not expect Qing Jing to be so vigilant, stabbing her without warning. Fortunately, she had the system portable space and escaped quickly, or else she would have been caught red-handed. System, the loyalty talisman should have been planted, right? The system said, the planting was successful, but Qing Jing is tenacious and cautious, so the loyalty talisman can't take effect immediately. We can only slowly grind it out. Ordinary people lacked judgment and were easily deceived. The loyalty talisman usually took effect immediately when used on them. If they encountered someone with a high IQ, the success rate would plummet to less than half. Chapter 841. Since that night, Qing Jing and the others had not encountered any other disturbances, but Yuan Chang's frown had not disappeared. He found that Qing Jing's complexion was getting more and more haggard by the day. Recently, he had even been a little absent-minded. Every time he asked, the other always said he was fine, but Yuan Chong always felt uneasy. He felt that his master was probably being haunted by something evil. But every time he said that, he would always be met with comments like, "Men don't speak of strange powers," which made Yuan Chong feel depressed. In the blink of an eye, it was mid-June. Along the way, Qing Jing and the others saw the new atmosphere of Wanzhou in full swing and could not help but feel emotional. Yuan Chong said, "Although the magistrate of Wanzhou is a woman, she is governing the county well. The north had suffered from war and there were many refugees. Last year, there had been a drought for several months. It should have been very bleak, but what they saw was completely different from what they had imagined. Many people worked hard in the fields. The cultivated fields were scattered in picturesque disorder, presenting a peaceful atmosphere. Qing Jing did not say anything. In his opinion, as a ruler, governing the people and treating his subordinates depended on one's ability. It had nothing to do with gender. Not long after Qing Jing and the others entered Wanzhou, Jiang Pengji found out. When they arrived, she was already ready to welcome them. Master, you say this is really Xiangyang district? I can't tell at all. If you say this is Shangjing, some people will believe you. Master, you said that Lu Shi is the magistrate of Wanzhou. Why is he here instead of staying in the prefecture? As the saying goes, clothes make the man, while horses make the saddle. Yuan Chong, this tall and sturdy man, changed out of his coarse hemp clothes and put on a fine silk robe. He looked a bit more noble and less boorish. He chattered in Qing Jing's ear, his power comparable to dozens of ducks. Qing Jing frowned. Silence. As soon as he said that, Yuan Chong stopped talking as if his mouth had been sewn shut. He watched Qing Jing walk past him, a bit of worry appearing in the depths of his eyes. Recently, Qing Jing's temper had been rising. He was still elegant and dignified, but his temperament had become gloomy and violent. What puzzled Yuan Chong was that they had met the woman a few days ago, but this time, Qing Jing had asked her to stay. It was too strange. What worried him more was the master's hand. The black lines on his right hand had not disappeared. The teacher's temper seemed to have worsened from that night. Yuan Chong watched as Qing Jing walked away. He turned to the guard and asked, "Did that woman do anything strange today?" The guard also lowered his voice and said, "That woman is very obedient. There's nothing noteworthy about her." Yuan Chong suppressed his impatience and hurriedly followed Qing Jing's footsteps. Qing Jing and his party were envoys representing Huang Song's forces, so Wanzhou did not dare to slight them. This was the first time the transmigrator had visited Wanzhou. She glanced at the surrounding buildings with disdain and muttered to herself, "Country bumpkin." It was only after she disparaged the buildings in Xianyang district that she stopped talking, feeling like she hadn't had enough. The system poured cold water on her. Don't get carried away. This is Lu Shi's territory. The transmigrator lowered her eyebrows in displeasure and muttered, she was hit by the grade 9 loyalty talisman, and the talisman was imprinted on her hand. The system said, the talisman was indeed in Lu Shi's hands, but Lu Shi is similar to Qing Jing, so he has a certain resistance to the loyalty talisman. The time traveler proudly said, so what if you have resistance? Qing Jing is also very powerful, but he was still controlled by the loyalty talisman. If she wasn't controlled by the loyalty talisman, why would Qing Jing accept her and let her follow the convoy? Lu Shi was hit by the grade 9 loyalty talisman, and it was the highest quality, orange. There was no way he could escape the fate of becoming a puppet. As long as I activate the incantation of the grade 9 loyalty talisman, in front of Lu Shi, she can live or die if I want her to. The system was about to refute. It felt that Lu Shi was not easy to deal with. However, the grade 9 loyalty talisman was indeed powerful. It should be able to control her. Forget it. Just be careful, lest you fail miserably. The system sighed. It was now counting on its host to turn the tables and hoped that this operation would be successful. The products of the system are always of the highest quality. I have confidence in you. The time traveler patted the system on its back. The system felt bitter but could not speak. The host had confidence, but it did not. It had suffered a few setbacks at the hands of Jiang Pengji, the evil opponent, and it still had lingering fears. Qing Jing was Huang Song's messenger, and Huang Song and Jiang Pengji were good friends. Jiang Pengji had to meet him personally. I hope you have been well since we parted ways in Shenzhou, Yumo. May I know the reason for your visit today? Jiang Pengji's attire was more formal than usual. She sat at the head of the table with a dignified air. Qing Jing bowed and said, My lord heard that you broke through Gemin Pass, crushed the emperor's morale, and boosted the court's prestige. He sent me to congratulate you with a generous gift. Jiang Pengji looked at Qing Jing with a smile and said, It's just a small matter. I'm really sorry that Biyao had to send a gift. Besides, Biyao and I are best friends, and I've admired your talent for a long time. Now that we've met, we don't have to be so serious. Her eyes fell on Qingjing's right hand, but she quickly looked away. Qingjing said, etiquette cannot be ignored. I'll feel uncomfortable if you're always so restrained, Jianghu said. What's wrong with your hand? Qingjing's right hand was covered in black lines. To avoid looking unsightly, he wrapped it with a white strip of cloth. Hearing Jianghu mention his right hand, Qingjing subconsciously covered the back of his right hand with his left. I accidentally hurt the back of my hand. Thank you for your concern. Mister's painting skills are peerless, you should be more careful. I have some good scar-removing medicine here. Why don't you take some back? Qingjing thanked him. After the small talk, Qingjing quietly changed the topic to the Battle of Jiamen Pass. The general who guarded the pass was Fu Wang, the top general of the Mengs in Sangzhou. It was unexpected that such a majestic and ever-victorious general had been defeated by Jianghu. There were reports of the battle, but the details were not complete. It was better to ask the person in question. The Battle of Jiamen Pass was over, and Jianghu had no secrets. She answered Qingjing's questions. She knew why Qingjing was here, so she let him lead the conversation. Before long, Qingjing mentioned the forces in Wulong County that had been destroyed by Fu Wang. I heard that the Wulong County chief's orphan was rescued by you. Qingjing sounded like he was asking, but he was sure of it. Yes. The orphan of County Chief Kai is with me. I remember the child was called Kai Xiang. Why did Yumo bring him up? Qingjing sighed. You may not know this, but ever since County Chief Kai sacrificed his life for the country, Wulong County has been in chaos. There's no leader, and there's been internal strife. Some people even rebelled. The people are so anxious that they had to move their families to seek refuge. On the way from Haozhou, I saw countless people from Wulong County travel thousands of miles to Wanzhou in search of a place to live. It's their fortune that you're willing to take them in, but the journey is dangerous and there are many bandits along the way. Many people have fallen victim to them. It's a pity. Jianghu knew that the refugees from Wulong County had come to Wanzhou, but she couldn't show it. She pretended to be surprised. Is that true? Xiaoyu, why didn't you tell me? Su Ku, the professional scapegoat, was speechless. Please don't drag me into the act, okay? However, as a subordinate, he had to share his lord's worries. He could only silently take the blame and apologize. Chapter 842. Jianghu said shamefully, I took Kai Xiang in with good intentions. I didn't expect it to backfire and bring disaster to Wulong County. She pretended to reproach herself. Of course, everyone present was smart enough to know that she was just being polite. Kai County Chief's power was almost destroyed. He only had a few dozen confidants and an 11-year-old boy left. What could they do? If Jianghu didn't take him in, even if Kai Xiang and the others could return to Wulong County, they would only be cannon fodder. If he stayed in Jianghu's territory, he could at least keep his life. Qingjing said, You're kind and generous. You protected the only bloodline of Kai County Chief. I heard that Kai Xiang was the only child that Kai County Chief had found when he was in his middle years. If Kai County Chief could see you in heaven, he would be grateful to you. However, the situation in Wulong County is getting worse and the people are suffering. If Kai Xiang could go back and take charge, he might be able to help. Qingjing's words were exactly what Jianghu wanted. On the surface, she frowned as if she was considering Qingjing's suggestion. After a while, she said, Yumo, I've thought about it. A few days ago, Kai Xiang sent someone to complain to me. He said that he dreamed of his father and his hometown. The child was only 11 years old, but he suffered such a misfortune. It was heartbreaking. However, Kai Xiang only has a few dozen confidants. If he goes to Wulong County with such a small number of people, wouldn't he fall into the hands of evil people? Qingjing's eyelids twitched when he heard the last sentence. Jiang Pengji was scolding him indirectly. He pretended not to understand. His expression remained the same, and no one could see any flaws in his act. Qingjing suggested, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it. Yimo, you and I are old friends. What can't we talk about? Jiang Pengji didn't put on the airs of a governor. Instead, she acted as if she was receiving a friend. Her attitude was casual but not rude. Qingjing closed his eyes and nodded slightly. Why don't you lend some troops to Kai Xiang and help him quell the rebellion? His words sounded like he was considering for Jiang Pengji, but in fact, it was a test. He conveniently blocked her way out. Jiang Pengji saved County Chief Kai's orphan and earned the reputation of being kind and generous. If they were to use this as an excuse to encroach on Wulong County, wouldn't that be bullying an orphan with no one to rely on? If she were to swallow her pride and help Kai Xiang stabilize Wulong County, then withdraw her army and be a selfless Lei Feng, handing over a piece of fat meat, the outside world would praise her to the heavens, saying that she was a model of kindness and loyalty, and would want nothing more than to give her silk banners. Only a fool would do such a thing if he were to contribute manpower, money, and effort. Jiang Pengji thought to herself, I don't mind borrowing troops, but I'm afraid of rumors spreading that I'm trying to encroach on Wulong County and bully the widows. It was really hard to explain. But if we ignore it, the people of Wulong County will continue to suffer. I can't bear to do that. Qingjing understood Jiang Pengji's hint and could not help but feel happy. As long as she was not interested in Wulong County, then the most suitable person to take over Wulong County was Huang Song. What Qingjing needed to do now was to recommend Huang Song to Jiang Pengji. Of course, both sides were well aware that Wulong County was not a piece of fat meat for free. If he wanted Jiang Pengji to relent and give up this benefit, he had to offer something else in exchange. What followed was a tug-of-war of negotiation. Jiang Pengji tested Qingjing's bottom line step by step, while Qingjing tried his best to fight for Huang Song's benefit. To put it simply, Kai Xiang was a commodity in Jiang Pengji's hands. She wanted to sell him for a high price, and Qingjing was representing the buyer, Huang Song. Naturally, they had to lower the price. As for what Kai Xiang, the commodity, thought, that was not within their scope of consideration. Jiang Pengji kept the live stream open, and the audience listened to the two of them haggle back and forth. Although their words were reserved, their meaning was the same. The more the audience listened, the more their worldview shattered. Bao Bao Xinku, I have a question. When the streamer and Qingjing traded Kai Xiang, did Kai Xiang's father know? Terminal obsessive-compulsive disorder patient, Kai Xiang's father was hacked to death by Fu Wang a long time ago. How would he know? Well, Shuyanfeng Mian, I sympathize with Kai Xiang. He's only 11 years old. In our world, he's still in the 6th grade. But considering the streamer's world background, 11 years old is already a sensible age. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame Kai Xiang for being born in the wrong era and being born in the wrong body. He has no ability, no one to rely on, and can only be at the mercy of others without any ability to resist. Zenmodo, the previous poster is too emotional. Things aren't that bad. Huang Song just wants to use Kai Xiang as a puppet to legitimately take over Wulong County. After the deed is done, he probably won't make things difficult for Kai Xiang. After all, Huang Song is also a person who cares about his reputation. In order to shut the mouths of the public, he won't kill Kai Xiang. What's so difficult about rewarding him with a meal? At most, his standard of living will not be as good as before. Zhouzhua Gongshou, I'll give the previous poster a like. You've spoken my mind. Kai Xiang has lost his father and protection. If Wulong County is in his hands, even if Huang Song doesn't take it from him, it'll be taken by someone else. Although this is not the right thing to say, it's a chaotic world that only cares about strength and not feelings. Wulong County is a hot potato for Kai Xiang. If he doesn't move, he'll get himself killed sooner or later. Bahuo Biyao, sigh, Kai Xiang is being sold off by the black-hearted streamer. Although both sides are well aware of the situation, some things can't be said too openly. At the very least, there needs to be a cover. For example, in this transaction of Kai Xiang, Jiang Pengji and Qing Jing stood on the moral high ground. With the people of Wulong County as the starting point, they let Kai Xiang go back to take charge of the overall situation and stabilize the situation. It was definitely not for the benefit of Wanzhou and Huang Song. After some probing, Jiang Pengji had more or less figured out the ins and outs of Huang Song's side. Qing Jing also calculated Jiang Pengji's bottom line. Huang Song knew Jiang Pengji's temperament. This time, he was prepared to bleed a lot. The conditions he offered were quite generous. It was a win-win situation. The negotiation process was quite pleasant, and both sides enjoyed themselves to the fullest. After negotiating a big deal, Jiang Pengji happily set up a banquet to welcome Qing Jing. By the way, Yumo, have you met any strange people recently? Jiang Pengji suddenly asked. Qing Jing's heart skipped a beat, but his expression did not change. Why do you say that, magistrate? Jiang Pengji said casually, Zixiao is proficient in astronomical phenomena and can predict. A while ago, he wrote me a letter saying that an ominous purple cloud was drifting from the south to Wanzhou. The evil aura was getting stronger by the day, so it should be evil without a doubt. As the saying goes, demons are bound to appear in chaotic times. Although strange powers and gods can't be trusted, Zixiao is the person I trust the most. I'd rather believe what he says than not. Chapter 843. Jiang Pengji denied it. That's not what I meant. Umo is like a cool breeze and bright moon. Ordinary demons can't get close to him. I'm just worried that there are demons lurking around you. You'd better be careful. Jiang Pengji's gaze drifted over Qing Jing's right hand. Qing Jing noticed this detail, and his expression changed abruptly. His face, which was already pale in the first place, turned slightly green. There was no one around. Qing Jing walked beside Jiang Pengji. They were only one step apart. Governor, do you also believe in demons and evil? Qing Jing asked tentatively. Jiang Pengji said, the world is vast and full of strange things. Maybe there really are demons and evil. But I've always believed that demons and evil are afraid of humans. Qing Jing said, in surprise. He found it refreshing. He had never heard such a point of view. Since ancient times, only humans were afraid of demons and evil. Why would demons and evil be afraid of humans? Jiang Pengji continued, the theory of demons and evil has been around for a long time. But the strange thing is that the rumors about demons and evil are all groundless. There has never been a convincing conclusion or evidence. I think, if demons and evil are really as strong as people say, why do they hide behind humans and dare not show themselves? It's obvious that demons and evil are afraid of humans. That's why they hide like rats in the gutter. They can't see the light. Qing Jing said with a smile, Governor, your words are novel. The demons and evil in the world aren't scary. What's scary is the human heart. I'm afraid that all the Buddhas in the world can't purify the evil in the human heart. Jiang Pengji was implying something. Although Qing Jing didn't express his opinion, his expression showed that he agreed with this point of view. At that moment, Qing Jing stretched his right hand out of his long sleeve, revealing his palm that was wrapped in white cloth. From the outline of his slender knuckles, Qing Jing's hand was very beautiful. It was indeed a pair of hands that could splash ink and paint. He asked, in your opinion, is the demon and evil that Mr. Wei Ci mentioned a human or a demon? Jiang Pengji said, it's hard to say. It depends on what Yumo thinks. Qing Jing responded in silence. His frowning brows showed some worry. He could feel that as time went by, his actions were becoming more and more abnormal. His memory was also seriously confused. Although it didn't affect his business, judging from Yuan Chang's reaction, his temperament had changed quite a bit. Countless times, he had wanted to kill the evildoer who was lurking around him, but when he thought of the other party's strange supernatural powers, he could only endure it. I thought that it should be a demon. Qing Jing's mind turned and he asked, does Mr. Wei Ci know how to exterminate a demon? Jiang Pengji laughed and said, with Zixiao's mediocre martial arts, he thinks it's too little meat to feed a demon. You asked the wrong person. Qing Jing, mocking her subordinates behind her back, such a lord. He really did not know how Wei Ci and the rest could tolerate it. Damn it. Jiang Pengji continued, however, if Yumo wants to know how to eliminate demons, you can ask me. Qing Jing had a suspicious look on his face. Then, he thought of something and his expression changed subtly. He remembered the magnificent feat of the man before him. During the rescue of the emperor, Qing Jing did not have the right to accompany Huang Song to court. According to Huang Song's account, the magistrate of Wanzhou in front of him had single-handedly dismembered something that seemed to be a demon. With such tyrannical strength, it was no wonder that she said she was not afraid of demons and evil. Qing Jing's heart was stirred. He was a little tempted but also a little hesitant. What good plan does the magistrate have? When he asked this question, Qing Jing's expression froze slightly. This should be the question of a ruler asking his subordinate. As a strategist, it was really embarrassing for him to ask Jiang Pengji instead of thinking of a good plan. But since he had already said it, he could only brace himself and wait for the answer. Jiang Pengji said with a smile, do you still need to ask? Of course, it's to lure the other party out and kill it on the spot. Qing Jing frowned and looked at Jiang Pengji with slight hesitation. Is what you said true, magistrate? Absolutely true. Qing Jing thought of Jiang Pengji's magnificent feat, and his wavering heart gradually calmed down. Maybe, he could give it a try. The banquet would only start in the evening. Qing Jing first went back to his resting place to shower and change his clothes. As soon as he finished cleaning up, he noticed that there was one more breath in the room. The air was filled with the faint fragrance of cosmetics. He was born in a gentry family. Incense was an elegant thing, so he was quite knowledgeable about it and was more sensitive. He really didn't know how that demon did it. She could always appear by his side without him noticing. After mentally preparing himself, Qing Jing walked past the person with a calm expression. He took out his scholar's sword and hung it on his waist. The person said to him in a commanding tone, bring me to the banquet later. Qing Jing nodded in response. He didn't show a trace of surprise, as if it was a very normal scene for the other party to appear out of nowhere. How is Lu Shi's condition today? Is there anything strange? The person spoke rather bluntly, as if he really treated Qing Jing as his confidant. He sat at the head of the table as if there was no one else around. Qing Jing closed his eyes and sat upright on the right side of the seat. He was about to speak when his gaze fell on his right hand. He suddenly thought of something and his heart palpitated. Qing Jing said, there's nothing strange about Magistrate Lu. The only strange thing is, her right hand seems to be injured. He remembered that Jiang Pengji's right hand was wrapped in white cloth, just like his. But at that time, his mind was in a mess and he forgot to ask. Now that he thought about it, Qing Jing felt a chill run down his spine. Could it be that the demon in front of him not only wanted to control him, but also Magistrate Lu? Right hand? The person's eyes lit up, and his entire face became a little more spirited. What does her right hand look like? Qing Jing said, Magistrate Lu's right hand is wrapped in white cloth. It's a little swollen. After hearing that, the person revealed a satisfied smile. Back then, she had used the level 9 loyalty talisman on Jiang Pengji's right hand. In other words, the curse was on her right hand. Jiang Pengji's right hand was still wrapped. It could be seen that the curse had been hidden in her body for a long time. As long as she activated the curse in front of Jiang Pengji, she would become her most obedient puppet. Thinking of this, she was especially looking forward to the banquet that day. Tonight was the night when the salted fish would turn over. Qing Jing secretly placed his hand on the hilt of his sword. He took a deep breath and calmly got into the carriage. The carriage wheels rolled forward leisurely, heading toward the district headquarters. The person sat in the same carriage as Qing Jing. She even stretched her legs inelegantly and leaned against the seat in a crooked manner. She alone occupied 2/3 of the space in the carriage. Her indecent behavior made Xingjing's heart burn with anger, but he could only pretend that he did not see it. When they were about to reach their destination, the person ordered Xingjing, "When the banquet is over, find an excuse to lure Lu Shi out and get her to come see me. If Lu Shi wants to kill me, you must stand in front of me, understand?" The curse had not been activated. Lu Shi was still a demon. She needed someone to be her scapegoat and buy her time. Chapter 844. For a normal banquet, the steps were pretty much the same. Welcoming the guests, announcing the ceremony, starting the banquet, music and dance. To put it bluntly, it was just eating, drinking, playing, and chatting. Xingjing was preoccupied with his own thoughts, so how could he have the energy to pay attention to the dishes and wine? He had already mentally prepared himself to be distracted while watching the song and dance. At least he could muddle through this difficult period of time. In the end, the customs of Wanzhou's banquets were very different from those of other places. They were given food and drinks, but they weren't allowed to watch songs and dances. Xingjing couldn't just sit there in a daze, could he? One could say that he was in a daze while watching the song and dance because the song and dance was too beautiful, so he was mesmerized by it. But now, there was only good food and wine, no singing and dancing beauties. If he was in a daze, what excuse could he use? The food and wine were too tempting, so he was dumbfounded. Xingjing didn't have much of an appetite. Seeing that Jiang Pengji had no intention of summoning him to dance, he could only lower his eyelids and raise his hand to pick up his chopsticks. He had thought that he would lose his appetite after eating a few mouthfuls, but he had never expected that the dishes at the banquet would be so delicious and exquisite that his appetite was aroused. As an honored guest, Xingjing sat at the first seat on the right side of the hall. Yuan Chong sat at the table beside him. Yuan Chong secretly looked around, as if he was looking for traces of the dancers, but the result was disappointing. More than half of the delicacies on the table had been eaten, but the entertainment program hadn't started yet. Was there a problem with the arrangements? Yuan Chong said with a smile, "Today, there is fine wine and delicacies. If there are beauties singing and dancing to liven things up, it would truly be a joyous occasion." Jiang Pengji said, "I don't keep musicians and dancers in my residence." Yuan Chong would find these words unbelievable if they were said by someone else. Keeping entertainers and dancers was not only for entertainment, but also for the convenience of entertaining guests. Those who didn't raise them were mostly stingy or from poor families. They would lose face if they told others about it. But when Jiang Pengji said it, Yuan Chong felt that it was only natural. The Lu prefecture overseer in front of him was a woman. Why did she keep so many beauties who were more beautiful than her? Making things difficult for me? Yuan Chong thought he knew the truth, so he didn't pursue the matter further. Although there was no singing and dancing to liven things up, the food in Wanzhou was really good. The dishes cooked were exceptionally delicious. Not only did they look, smell, and taste great, but they also had a wide variety of dishes. Even though he was already feeling a little full, he still couldn't help but reach out his chopsticks when he saw the new delicacies that the maidservant had brought over. Today's banquet is to welcome the 2 envoys. If there were no singing and dancing, it would indeed be a little desolate. Su Ku, who was standing at the side, stepped forward to smooth things over. He said with a smile, "My lord and county chief Huang have a good personal relationship. In private, they address each other as brother and sister. Our 2 families are naturally as close as one family, so there's no need to be too restrained. If the 2 envoys don't mind, Ku is willing to play a song." It was the custom of Wanzhou to prepare their own programs. Yuan Chong and Xingjing thought that they were being rude and had forced Su Ku to come out and smooth things over. But since Su Ku had already said it, how could they dare to say no? Xingjing said a few words of praise and complimented him in a tone that was neither too light nor too heavy. Su Ku's zither skills were not top-notch, but they were above average. The music he played was cheerful and joyous, so he did not embarrass himself. Yuan Chong couldn't hear anything, he just felt that the other party was playing very well. Everyone brushed this matter aside and continued to eat, drink, and chat. When they were drunk, they would practice their swordplay. Very soon, half of the time had passed. The atmosphere at the banquet was harmonious, causing Qing Jing's taut nerves to relax slightly. However, his gaze would always drift to Jiang Pengji's right hand, and there was a strong sense of struggle in his eyes. He had heard more than once that Lu Shi was good at fighting, and he had also heard Huang Song vividly describe the scene of Lu Shi using a ceremonial tablet to dismember people at court. Even so, Jiang Pengji was still human. Could she really deal with that demon? The demon was obviously plotting against Lu Shi. If he led Lu Shi to the demon, would he really not harm her? Qing Jing was not afraid of anything else, he was only worried that it would bring disaster to Huang Song. While he was hesitating, the banquet had already come to an end. Whether it was the absent-minded Qing Jing, the gourmet Yuan Chong, or the civil and military talents who were freeloading from Jiang Pengji's tent, they maintained an upright sitting posture while secretly covering their stomachs with their sleeves. They rubbed their bloated bellies with the cover of their sleeves. In other people's banquets, listening to songs and watching dances was the main theme, but in Jiang Pengji's banquet, eating and drinking were the most important things. Qing Jing was struggling with himself when Jiang Pengji asked him. Yimo said that he had something to tell me during the day. What is it? Jiang Pengji winked at him, hinting at him not to spoil things. Qing Jing was stunned for a moment, but he readily followed her advice. He bowed and said, "My lord ordered me to pass on a message. If it's convenient, I would like to discuss it in detail with you in private." Official matters certainly could not be discussed at the banquet. It was normal to ask for the attendants to be dismissed or to discuss it in detail in private. Jiang Pengji said, "Of course." The banquet ended, and Qing Jing let Yuan Chong return to the place where he was staying. "I have something important to discuss with you in detail. Heng Shu, you don't have to wait outside. Just leave a carriage behind." After giving instructions, Qing Jing left with Jiang Pengji. The two of them walked under the moonlight to a secluded place, avoiding the eyes and ears of others. From afar, it looked like two friends walking side by side under the moonlight, chatting leisurely. Because the previous banquet was too boring, the audience watching the live stream was not very interested. There were only 2 or 3 comments on the screen. Zhandao Changkong, is there anyone alive in the live stream room? Xianyuan Mingjing, I'm still hanging in there. I've watched the streamer eat for 2 to 3 hours. I'm starving. I'm holding a bucket of instant noodles and gnawing on it. Sai Pu, I'm hanging in there too. I haven't noticed anything strange until now, but I don't dare to leave the live stream room. I'm afraid I'll miss something big. Jiang Pengji's live stream had a certain pattern. If there were no accidents, the live stream time was from 9 to 5. If something big happened, she would extend the live stream time or start a live stream at the last minute. Everyone was a veteran in the live stream room. They knew Jiang Pengji's temper, so they kept waiting and refused to leave. When the banquet was finally over, they saw the streamer strolling under the moonlight with Qing Jing in casual clothes. The further they walked, the more remote they became. They felt a little flustered. Could it be that the streamer had finally found her conscience and planned to give the audience some benefits, such as forcing herself against the wall or doing something shameful? More than one person made such a guess. Sans Hisongshu Ningshi, I thought the streamer liked Beauty CI. It was shown in the previous live stream. Why did they suddenly change their CP? Hide and seek cat, I like Beauty CI too. I'm firmly on the streamer X and Wei C's CP, make, and Yang, change their CP? No. Watching the streamer win over Beauty CI is my motivation to follow the live stream. Don't be so cruel. Tudu Feichio, it can't be. Would the streamer fall in love with Qing Jing? Don't scare me. You can open your mouth to spread rumors, but you'll break your legs to refute them. Although Qing Jing looks good, has a good temperament, and has a good family background, he's much older than the streamer. He should be married and have children, right? It's impossible for the streamer to get involved in other people's marriages and families. She and Qingjing should really have something to discuss. Don't think too much. Chapter 845. Jiang Pengji said, "This place is secluded enough. Yumo, just say what you want to say." Qingjing looked at Jiang Pengji helplessly. She was the one who initiated it. How did it turn into him seducing her? What should he say? He had nothing to say. Because of the seal on his hand, Qingjing could sense that the demon was nearby. He became more vigilant. He said, "It's a long story." Jiang Pengji said, "It's okay. You can make it short." Qingjing was speechless. The audience in the streaming room burst into laughter. Qingjing was Huang Song's counselor, not his own counselor. He shouldn't bully him like that. Fortunately, Qingjing had good mental fortitude. His expression only froze for a moment before returning to normal. His mind raced as he searched for the ink in his stomach. Very quickly, he fabricated a plausible, urgent matter. Jiang Pengji was very cooperative. She either nodded or frowned. Occasionally, she even gave her opinion. Qingjing secretly sighed. The magistrate of Liuzhou was also a talent. His ability to fabricate nonsense was no weaker than his own. They talked as they walked. Jiang Pengji's attention seemed to be attracted by Qingjing's words. The moonlight that was as cold as water shone down, elongating their shadows. They went around a rockery. Their field of view was facing the direction of the moon. In front of them was a dense cluster of abandoned rockery. The shadows were thick. If something was hidden there, no one would be able to find it. As time passed, Qingjing's heartbeat became louder and faster. It was almost in his throat. He felt a scorching heat on the back of his right hand. He knew that the demon was nearby. She was less than 10 feet away from him. At that moment, he heard a roar. A dark blue light attacked Jiang Pengji from the shadows in front of him. "What are you waiting for? Surrender." Everything happened too suddenly. Qingjing instinctively made a defensive move, trying to block the strange blue light. However, he was just a scholar with weak martial arts skills. By the time he stood in front of Jiang Pengji, the light had already hit her. Qingjing's face darkened when he saw that. A graceful woman walked out from the shadows of the rockery and clapped her hands in appreciation. "You did well. If you didn't help distract Lu Shi and lower his guard, I'm afraid it wouldn't have been so easy." Earlier, the woman had ordered Qingjing to be her meat shield. Therefore, Qingjing's actions just now were seen by the woman as proof of his loyalty. Qingjing secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. With a calm expression, he moved sideways and retreated to the side. However, his hand was placed on the hilt of the sword at his waist. The woman calmly stepped forward and giggled. She circled Jiang Pengji twice and sized her up with a critical gaze. Not bad, Lu Shi." The woman stood in front of Jiang Pengji and suddenly reached out her hand to pinch Jiang Pengji's chin. She used a lot of strength and forced Jiang Pengji to lift her head. "You don't look good. You look like a man. Is Lu Shi Lu Shi?" Jiang said. "I don't. Is. With the help of the moonlight, Qingjing saw that Jiang Pengji's expression was blank. There were traces of slackness in her eyes, like a piece of wood. His heart thumped fiercely, and the hand that was holding the hilt of his sword tightened. His slender knuckles tightened, revealing a little pale. The woman wasn't satisfied. She pushed Jiang Pengji to the craggy rockery with a vicious look in her eyes. "Come. Kneel down and lick my toes." At the side, Qingjing's arrogance soared. How dare this monster humiliate others like this? Just as he was about to draw his sword, Jiang Pengji waved her right hand at him, signaling him to move away. Qingjing was speechless. He had met the ancestor of acting. The woman didn't let go. She changed her mind. She looked at Qingjing, who was watching Jiang Pengji's performance, and curled her finger at him. Come here. Cheng. An innocent spectator? Qing Jing was speechless. He took a few steps forward, but his mind was much more relaxed. He wanted to see what kind of show was going to happen next. I'll give her to you today. She's still a virgin. On the other side, the streaming room was in an uproar. The audience had been following the stream for many years. They had never seen Jiang Pengji treated like that. That woman pinched the streamer's chin with her claws, pushed her to the rockery, and made her kneel and lick her toes? Lick your balls. If that wasn't enough, she wanted to humiliate the streamer's body? How despicable. Sai Weiyan, I have a curse that I want to throw in her face right now. Muzhong, is the streamer bewitched? Wake up. The fairy queen's crimson, Qing Jing, if you King touch the streamer's finger, I'll crawl along the cable and chop you up. There were only a few comments on the bullet screen, but it exploded in an instant, flooding the screen like a blowout. Then, an orange-yellow bullet screen caught their attention. Host V, I forgot to inform you that I'll be increasing the number of people in the streaming room. According to the plan, the streaming room will be connected to another dimension. When the time comes, I'll broadcast it to the audience in both dimensions. The streaming room has limited seats. Remember to subscribe. The 150,000 viewers were speechless. Their anger was extinguished by Jiang Pengji's notice. Handsome white rabbit, damn it. The drama queen is cheating my feelings. At the same time, Qing Jing's face turned green. He was enraged. The evildoer didn't know, but he knew that Jiang Pengji was sober. Lu Shi was the governor of Wanzhou. How could she treat him like an ordinary woman? In Qing Jing's opinion, even touching the corner of someone else's clothes was blasphemy, let alone physical humiliation. More importantly, what if the governor of Liuzhou bore a grudge? Qing Jing felt his vision darken. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to walk out of Wanzhou. Even if his worldview collapsed, Qing Jing still didn't reveal any flaws. To put it bluntly, among the 3 people present, except for the woman, the other 2 were Oscar winners. The Oscars owed them so many little golden figures that they could bankrupt the Oscars. The woman smiled at Jiang Pengji and said, Look at you, you've been dressing as a man for so many years. I bet you don't even know what a woman is, do you? I'll fulfill your wish today. You've killed me several times in the past. You should have known that this day would come. The river flows east for 30 years and then west for 30 years. The wheel of fortune turns. You've fallen into my hands. This is your retribution. Qing Jing, what are you waiting for? I'll reward you. After saying that, the woman pinched Jiang Pengji's chin and threw her toward Qing Jing. Qing Jing wanted to dodge sideways. He didn't dare touch her, lest the other party came to settle scores with him and get him involved. Jiang Pengji was thrown by the woman like a puppet. Her toes had just left the ground when something happened in the next second. She adjusted her center of gravity in midair and grabbed the woman's wrist. Suddenly, she sank and grabbed the other party. Her right hand was like a spirit snake that wrapped around the woman's neck. With a grab and a lift, she threw the woman from the left to the right. Chapter 846. The woman was caught off guard by the sudden turn of events. Before she could restrain the smugness on her face, she was already under someone else's control. You. Lu Shi, you're not being controlled? Why aren't you being controlled? TCH, are you trying to trick me? The woman was anxious and helpless. Her heart was pounding in her left chest. She could not help but think of the fear of being controlled by Jiang Pengji. Impossible. You must be being controlled. The woman tried to struggle, but Jiang Pengji was terrifyingly strong. No matter what she did, the woman remained motionless. She was about to go crazy. It's a lie. It's impossible that you're not being controlled. Let me go. Jiang Pengji restrained her and said strangely, You're so unreasonable. Are you the only one allowed to plot against me, murder me, and control me, but I'm not allowed to defend myself? What kind of rule is that? At the end of the day, it's obvious that your skills are inferior. How can you blame your opponent for being too strong? I suddenly thought of a saying that suits you. You don't have the life of a princess, but you're infected with the princess disease. She directly poked at the woman's weak spot. The woman became angry from embarrassment and struggled even more violently. Jiang Pengji's scolding was too vicious. Qing Jing could not help but sneer. His actions reminded the woman. The woman was like a drowning person. She desperately wanted to hold on to the last straw. Flustered and exasperated, she said, "Qing Jing, kill her." Jiang Pengji laughed and said, "Yumo's martial arts are inferior to mine. How can he kill me?" The woman said angrily, "Lu Shi, if you kill Qing Jing, do you think Huang Song can still maintain his sibling relationship with you?" Jiang Pengji tilted her head in surprise. She glanced at the motionless Qing Jing and smiled. "I thought your brain had been eaten by pigs. I didn't expect you to still have some left. But what's the use of that? I'll give you a piece of advice. Remember it in your next life. Don't think that you're the only smart person in the world. People who think they're smart often die miserably. I won't hurt Yumo, but before you give the order, you have to make sure that he's not being controlled by you." Jiang Pengji's words pierced the woman's spleen and lungs. The woman was so angry that her eyes turned red and overflowed with intense hatred. The woman was panting. Her hair was messy, her cheeks flushed red, and the corners of her eyes shone with tears. Beside him, Qing Jing fell silent. If he did not know the cause and effect, he would have thought that Governor Lu was bent like a mosquito coil and was about to destroy a flower. "Qing Jing. Kill her. Hurry up and kill her, trash." The woman refused to believe it. She couldn't control Lu Shi, but could she not control a stupid ancient man? Qing Jing let out a long sigh when his name was called out again. He said to Jiang Pengji, "Magistrate of Liuzhou, should I give way?" This was said to Jiang Pengji, but it was also a disguised rejection of the woman's order. The slap to the face came too quickly, like a tornado. She said to Qing Jing in the tone of a considerate little princess, "Move aside, move aside. The next scene is too bloody. I'm afraid it'll scare you." Qing Jing pretended to be temporarily deaf. He glanced coldly at the demon who was being suppressed by Jiang Pengji and left without any reluctance. The last bit of blood drained from the woman's face. After a while, she said fiercely, "Lu Shi, you can't kill me. I will come back for revenge, revenge on everyone around you." Jiang Pengji smiled and tightened her grip. She looked at the woman mockingly. The woman's face turned purple because of the lack of oxygen. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness, and her eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. Just as the woman was about to die, Jiang Pengji loosened her grip again. A large amount of fresh air poured into the woman's mouth and nose. She coughed and breathed greedily. The feeling of being on the verge of death but not dying was too terrifying. She did not have the courage to try it a second time. "If you have any grudges, come at me. I can at least respect you. You shouldn't have set your eyes on the people around me," Jiang Pengji said with a smile. Her calm voice added some gentleness, but the woman did not feel any warmth. Instead, she trembled all over. The woman trembled and said shakily, "I can't die. I will come back. Lu Shi, don't ever let me get the chance. Otherwise, I will make sure you end up like that shameless mother of yours. Just you wait." Jiang Pengji said with a smile, "You've already threatened me. Do you think I will give you a chance to rise again?" Perhaps it was because she knew she was going to die, the woman regained some calmness. She had the system and countless chances to start over. She could afford to lose. At most, she would continue to owe a huge debt to the system. The woman said crazily, "You can't kill me." At that moment, Jiang Pengji moved closer to her ear. Her hot breath hit her earlobe with a burning temperature. "Are you sure?" The woman's heart skipped a beat. She pretended to be tough and said, "If you don't believe me, why don't you try killing me?" For her, death was a form of escape. As long as she died, her soul would appear in the system space and she could make a comeback. Jianghu pressed her lips against the woman's ear and said something. The woman's face turned pale and she trembled even more violently. She did not say anything else. She only said one thing. "From just now until now, haven't you realized that your biggest backer has not made a sound?" System? Right. Why hasn't the system said anything? The woman called out to the system in her heart, but no matter how many times she called out, the result was like a stone sinking into the ocean. There was no response at all. She became more and more flustered. Why hasn't the system responded? Jianghu seemed to know what she was thinking. She said with a smile, "The system is not omnipotent. It can't even protect itself now. How can it care about a useless person like you?" The woman shook her head in disbelief. Her face was full of fear. She did not care that her vitals were being clamped by Jianghu. She stretched out her well-maintained hands and grabbed the ground. She did not care even if her nails were broken. She just wanted to crawl away. She did not want to be so close to Jianghu. What kind of person could cause the system to be at a loss for what to do? Lu Shi. Spare me, spare my life. The woman's face was covered with tears of fear. The bruises left by the suffocation had not completely faded. Coupled with her shrill screams, she actually had the demeanor of a ferocious ghost. She begged for mercy, "Please, spare my life." Beg? Isn't it too late now? Jianghu asked her with a smile. Downwind was as mad as a dog. Against the wind, he knelt and begged. Speaking of which, could she have a little backbone? Spare me. I'll tell you a secret. Don't you want to know how your mother, Gumin, died? The woman cried until her tears and snot dripped down her face. There was no trace of a peerless beauty. She was so embarrassed that she looked like a crazy woman. She said, "Let me go this time. Just let me go this time. I won't go against you anymore. I'll tell you who killed Gu Min." The audience in the streaming room was eating melons with a smile. They felt that today's streaming was not boring. They were waiting for the streamer to kill the demon again. They never thought that it would involve the past of the previous generation. Didn't the streamer's mother die of natural causes? Jianghu lowered her eyelids and sneered. Didn't you kill my two brothers and cause my mother to die of a serious illness? The woman pounded the ground in anger. Her eyes were full of hatred. Chapter 847. Mother and father loved each other very much. Why would father kill her? Please find a good reason to sow discord. The woman's face stiffened. She immediately cried out, "Your mother is a time traveler." A time traveler is someone from another world. Lu Shi thought her body was possessed by evil spirits. How could he not be afraid? If you don't believe me, you can look at Xie Qian. When Xie Qian found out that Wang Huiyun was a time traveler, he also wanted to kill her. I'm telling the truth. If I deliberately sow discord between you and your father, I will die a horrible death. A time traveler? Someone from another world? Jianghu pretended not to know and asked, "Are you telling the truth?" It's absolutely true. The real Gu Min is actually an idiot. Everyone who used to serve Gu Min knows that she didn't know how to speak even when she was 4 years old. The woman called out to the system in her heart. Her voice was trembling as she told the system what she knew. The person who married Lu Shi in the end wasn't Gu Min. It was Gu Min's stepsister, Gu Zhen. That woman was shameless. She took advantage of the fact that she knew the history to steal her own brother-in-law. She even pushed Gu Zhen to Meng Zhan, that bastard. Lu Shi accidentally found out the truth. That's why he planned to assassinate Gu Min. Although I killed your two brothers, I really didn't kill you. Jianghu seemed to be convinced. Although she didn't let go of the woman, she obviously loosened her grip. Go on. Tell me everything you know. The woman realized in despair that she really couldn't contact the system. In order to survive, she could only take a gamble. I also accidentally found out that Gu Min is a time traveler. Later, I searched her soul and found out that she came from 300 years in the future. She knew the history, so she stole Gu Jin's husband. She's a shameless B***tch. Lu Shi is an ancient person. Of course, he is afraid of ghosts and gods, so he murdered Gu Min. I'm telling the truth, please don't kill me. Jiang Pengji heard and snorted mockingly. The woman seemed to think of something and hurriedly said, Lu Shi still wants to kill you. In Gu Min's memory, you will kill Lu Shi in the end. Now that he knows about this, it won't be easy for you to kill him in the future. He will kill you in advance. Because of her panic, she spoke incoherently. Jiang Pengji laughed and said, Do you think I will believe you? If my father really wanted to kill me, he would have done so long ago. The woman cried, Because you are the founding emperor of the Jiang dynasty, the future Emperor Qin. Of course, Lu Shi won't let you die now. The founding emperor of the Jiang dynasty? The woman nodded like she was pounding garlic. She said, Yes. The founding emperor of the Jiang dynasty. I searched Gu Min's soul and discovered that she came from the future 300 years ago. Her maiden name was Lanting, but when Lu Lanting was 12 years old, she met bandits and lost her memory. She forgot that she was Lu Lanting and changed her surname to Jiang Pengji. She even killed her own brother. This is what I saw from Gu Min's memory. Later, she killed Lu Shi, who was captured by the feudal vassals. She killed her own father. Seeing that Jiang Pengji was unmoved, the woman continued, Even if Lu Shi doesn't kill you now, he will definitely kill you in the future. Because you're the daughter of a demon, why wouldn't he be afraid? But in order to become the emperor, he has to treat you well. You have to believe me. Jiang Pengji laughed and said, If I really become the emperor one day, do you think my father can still kill me? He didn't do anything to me now, and he won't do anything to me in the future. You sowed discord and urged me to kill my father. You have ulterior motives and evil intentions. The woman's face was twisted. She never expected that she would not be able to persuade Jiang Pengji after so much persuasion. After a while, she said, You asked me before. You asked me if it was because of me that your mother almost died. Jiang Pengji said calmly, I already know the answer to this question. Even if you answer it, it's of no value to me. You know? The woman widened her eyes in surprise. Jiang Pengji nodded. I know. The two looked at each other, and the woman suddenly laughed wildly. She laughed so hard that tears came out of her eyes. Yes, yes, yes. You know. I'm the stupid one. Jiang Pengji said again, Are you done? If you are, prepare to be on your way. The woman's arrogant laughter stopped abruptly. Her eyes widened like copper bells, and the whites of her eyes were horrifying. You want to kill me? Jiang Pengji said faintly, I never said I won't kill you, right? You're the one who thinks too highly of yourself. Her words extinguished the last glimmer of hope in the woman's heart. In your next life, be a good person. Jiang Pengji spoke as if she was chatting with an old friend. In this world, everyone's life is precious. The so-called poverty refers to wealth, not life. You have an advantage that ordinary people don't, but that's not an excuse for you to disregard human life. You think you're lucky enough to get a powerful cheat, but how do you know that the other party doesn't have the intention to harm you? To be honest, Jiang Pengji could not bear to kill her. No matter what, it was a daily pastime. If it was gone, she would be lonely in the future. Forgive me this time. I won't harm you anymore. I really won't harm you. I won't be the heroine. The woman vaguely realized that she did not have the chance to load the file again. Her fear of death overrode everything else. It's too late to say all this now. When you were harming others, did you ever think about this day? Faced with the threat of death, the woman suddenly exerted all her strength to fight, but Jiang Pengji already knew her intentions. Ugh, she stuck out her tongue. The strong feeling of suffocation made her consciousness blur. Her eyeballs were bulging out of their sockets with fine blood vessels. Suddenly, there was a crisp sound of bones breaking. Scarlet blood gushed out from her mouth, nose, eyes, and ears. Her violently struggling body slowly softened. Her eyes were wide open, and she died with a grievance. She looked like a malicious ghost. Where was the charm of a beautiful woman? Jiang Pengji murmured, I wanted to keep you to amuse me, but, who asked you to lay your hands on Qingjing? Up to this day, Jiang Pengji had also miscalculated. Fortunately, the deviation was not big. Everything was still under her control. She thought that by deliberately using the level 9 loyalty talisman, the woman would focus on her and not lay her hands on the people around her. She did not know that the woman was greedy. She tried to control Qingjing. Who knew if she would lay her hands on Wei Ci and the others in the future? A woman who had nothing to lose was not afraid of wearing shoes. Jiang Pengji could not afford to gamble. Considering the risks, she decided to get rid of this hidden danger once and for all. Even if it was not a good time to reel in the net. Using her spirit to disperse the woman's remaining source of spiritual waves, Jiang Pengji's right hand brushed over the woman's body. After a while, another strange source of spiritual waves appeared in her mental brain. It was the subsystem of the woman's body. In order to distinguish Jiang Pengji's and the woman's systems, they were temporarily labeled as System 1 and System 2. Jiang Pengji said mischievously, System, I've sent your brother here. Chapter 848. Ugh, it's not a good habit to swear. Aren't you afraid that you'll lead the children astray? I'll send the system itself over one day, and you can play landlord with 3 people, Jiang Pengji said with a smile. She wasn't affected at all. Instead, the 2 systems were fuming with anger. What landlord? Why didn't you just play mahjong with the 4 of you? System number 2 was still confused. Its connection with the host was cut off by Jiang Pengji, and it watched as she killed the host and scattered the host's soul. This was completely different from the script it had expected. That was not all. Before it could escape, its vision went black and it was locked in a field of spiritual energy. System number 2 asked, Where is this? Jiang Pengji said, My spiritual brain region. She grabbed the system on the time-traveling woman's body. The 2 streaming rooms were forced to upgrade and were currently entering the maintenance phase. Before entering the maintenance phase, she sent a message to the audience in her streaming room, asking them to hurry up and grab a seat the next day. System number 2 tried to break free, but the suppression around it was too strong. It couldn't escape at all. Near it, system number 1, which was a few times smaller than it, said coldly, Stop struggling, stop. System number 2 only realized system number 1's situation at that moment, and it was even more confused. Why are you imprisoned? Because the information between the systems was not interconnected, it still didn't know that its fellow sufferer had suffered inhumane treatment. System number 1 snorted coldly. It didn't want to talk to this idiot. System number 2 calmed down and its heart sank. It felt that the script was completely different from what it had expected. It said hesitantly, This spiritual brain region isn't normal, abnormally strong. System number 1 continued to sneer. You've been with that stupid woman for too long. Even your IQ has been dragged down by her. System number 2 was silent. It thought of a terrible guess. You. How could you possess such a host? You're still helping her? If it had encountered such a ghost, it would have left a long time ago. System number 1 said lifelessly, Which of your dog eyes saw me helping her? It was also a prisoner now, okay? It wasn't worried about anything but the main body of the system. Looking at Jiang Pengji's reaction recently, she seemed to have found out the truth, which made it anxious. As a higher life form, it had never felt so powerless before. Of the hosts it had met in the past, 9 out of 10 were idiots, and 1 was a smartass. Which one of them wasn't fooled by it? Unfortunately, the heavenly axiom was good at reincarnation. This time, the person who was fooled was him. System number 2 was the first to be separated. Once it was separated, it and the main body of the system became two separate entities, and there were many things it did not know. It thought it was number 1's idea to look for Jianghu, so it complained, "Why did you find such a host? How was this an enslaved host? It was clearly an ancestor." System number 1 sneered, "If I had a choice, I wouldn't choose it either." Who knew that the chosen one would be so hard to deal with? There were countless planes in the world, and each plane was equivalent to an independent entity. The better the living beings on the plane grew and flourished, the more the plane would receive in return. The so-called system was actually a parasite that traversed the various planes and secretly absorbed their origin energy. Planes also had their own consciousness. In order to let the living beings on the plane develop better, the so-called chosen one came into existence. If the system did not intervene, according to the original trajectory, Jianghu would create a brand new dynasty and give back more benefits to the plane. The result? The small sapling that was the plane had been targeted by the parasite, the system. According to previous experience, as long as the chosen one was killed, and then it absorbed the origin energy of the plane step by step, it would basically be stable. System number 2 screamed loudly, "She's the chosen one?" That scared me to death. System number 1 said gloomily, "If she's not the chosen one, why would the main body split me again?" It thought it could bring disaster to the chosen one that the plane favored, but it didn't expect that she was basically a disaster that specialized in harming the system. It really didn't know where the low-level plane, which was still in a backward civilization, could capture such a soul. It was so F***ing disgusting. System number 2 was instantly stunned. It said anxiously, "What do we do now? You and I are the same. If you ask me, who should I ask?" The system was flustered and exasperated. "Can you still contact the main body?" System number 2 said dejectedly, "No." As early as when it was forcibly bound to the previous host's body by Jianghu, it could not contact the main body. At that time, it knew that Jianghu was not to be trifled with, but it never thought that she would be so troublesome. Not only could she threaten it, but she could also threaten the main body. "Just wait." System number 1 panted heavily and said fiercely, "Jianghu is quite conceited. She will fall hard. Fortunately, your stupid host still has some brains and didn't give up the real main body. Otherwise, the main body might also be captured by Jianghu. Then, with one master and 2 sons, the 3 systems could play landlord." At that moment, Jianghu's voice sounded in the spiritual brain. She said, "I think both of you are quite stupid. This is my spiritual brain. I am the god here. I can hear whatever you are whispering about. Are you sure you want to continue talking?" Jianghu laughed and teased while destroying the corpse. The 2 systems were as quiet as chickens. Her ears were finally at peace. Sigh. Reincarnate into a good life in your next life. If you still have the chance to be reincarnated, Jianghu clapped her hands. The corpse on the ground had completely ignited. From time to time, there was the sound of an explosion. Jing was guarding from afar. When he saw the fire, he suppressed his emotions and hurried over. "Magistrate Liu, has that demon been executed?" "Yes." "Look at your hand. Are the traces still there?" Jing was delighted. He raised his hand and removed the white cloth on his right hand. He saw that the area that was originally covered with ugly black lines had returned to its normal color. He solemnly bowed and said gratefully, "Thank you, Magistrate, for saving my life." The black lines disappeared. He felt that his body was a little lighter. His originally dizzy mind seemed to have been dispelled and saw the sun. He was much clearer. Jianghu raised her hand and helped him up. She said with a smile, "You don't have to thank me. This matter is also my fault. I should have gotten rid of her earlier." Jing did not know that Jiang Pengji deliberately left a backup plan to give the time traveler a chance to make a comeback. Speaking of which, if it were not for Jiang Pengji, Jing would not have suffered such an undeserved calamity. Chapter 849. Day's Village, an unknown small place in the Jiang dynasty. There were only 100 families in this village, and it didn't take long for the people at the end of the village to know what happened at the head of the village. Today, the usually quiet village became lively. This girl's eyes are bright, and I like her. Girl, what's your name? The Iceman was gorgeously dressed, and his clothes were colorful and bright, making people wonder if he was wearing a flower pot. Ning Wanhua timidly said, "My daughter's name is Wanhua." Wanhua? That's an elegant name. Who named it? The fat Iceman asked. Before Ning Wanhua could answer, the fat auntie on the side answered, "This name was given by the poor father of Wanhua." Since the establishment of the Jiang dynasty, the Empress opened the imperial examinations, and many young people dreamed of reaching the sky in one step. Ning Wanhua's father was one of them. Unfortunately, his talent was not high, and he could only read a few words in the past few years. Not long ago, he was bitten to death by a poisonous snake while working in the field. Wanhua's mother died early, and her father also passed away. The family was penniless, and now they were so poor that they couldn't even feed themselves. Knowing that a noble had come to the village to choose a girl as a child bride, Wanhua's aunt hurriedly brought the little burden out. The Iceman asked again, "Can you read?" Wanhua timidly nodded. The Iceman turned around and talked with the people accompanying him, and after a while, he decided on Wanhua. Aunt Wanhua happily pushed her out, and turned around to accept the betrothal gift from the Iceman. The young and ignorant Wanhua followed the Iceman into the carriage, her face full of bewilderment. She didn't know where her future would go with this carriage. Wanhua knew what a child bride was, and several families in the village had also bought a child bride. She thought that her husband was either an old man in his 30s or 40s, or a 3 or 4-year-old urchin. However, after a month, she was suddenly at a loss when she saw the handsome, tranquil young man. Such a good-looking immortal would actually worry about not being able to find a wife? "Why did you send this child here?" The voice was cold, like the tinkling of a clear spring, seeping with a chill. The plain-clothed young man sat under the porch with a zither on the table in front of him. A similarly plain white forehead cloth was neatly placed on his forehead and 2 plain white belts were wrapped around his waist. It was a long morning attire. His eyes swept over Wanhua's face without a trace of emotion. With just a glance, Wanhua was so scared that she took 2 steps back, timidly hiding behind Iceman. The eldest lady said that Grand Tutor Wei should continue the bloodline. Iceman's voice was not as frivolous as before, but with a trace of indifference that was difficult for others to understand. In short, it was very imposing. "Heh," the young man snorted coldly with a mocking smile on his face. Iceman pushed Wanhua out from behind him. "If Second Langjun is not willing, I will come back in half a year to take this child away." Iceman left, leaving only the moon and a few large and small bags, which contained a lot of gold and silver jewelry and clothes of good materials. The young man continued to play the zither. Wanhua didn't understand what he was playing, but she thought it was beautiful. She stood under the porch and basked in the sun all afternoon, not knowing to find a shady place to hide from the sun. At dusk, the young man returned to the house with the zither in his arms and came out after a while. "What is your name?" The young man handed her a glass of water. Wanhua took it and greedily drank a few mouthfuls, almost choking. "This little one's surname is Ning, and my maiden name is Wanhua." The young man sat under the porch, casually wearing a pair of crudely made wooden clogs. He looked at the petite Wanhua and asked, "How old are you?" 11. The young man murmured, "Only 11 years old." "Ha, this is ridiculous." Wanhua didn't dare to move. Before Iceman came, he had repeatedly ordered her to follow all kinds of rules into her head. The young man said again, "Then do you know what they want you to do?" Wanhua said, "To be Langjun's wife." She spoke very bluntly, her eyes dark and clear. After a while, a hand with distinct fingers appeared on Wan Yu's head, rubbing her hair. You're only 11 years old. If I were born 5 or 6 years earlier, you could be my daughter. Wan Yu tilted her head and asked anxiously, then should I call you daddy? The young man was speechless. Forget it, forget it. Why should I get angry with a child like you? The young man sighed and said, just call me Big Brother. Wan Yu asked, Big Brother? Then can Wan Yu still be your wife? The young man laughed. You're so young. What do you know about a wife? Wan Yu hung her head and twisted her sleeves, not daring to say another word. The young man lived deep in the mountains. It was a beautiful place with beautiful scenery. But for some reason, the young man was a vegetarian all year round, wearing plain clothes as if he was observing mourning for someone. Wan Yu lived in a house near the young man and had nothing to do all day. She saw that the courtyard was empty and felt that it was a waste to leave it empty, so she rolled up her sleeves and started weeding. The young man's daily routine was either playing the zither or painting or staring blankly at the sky. Seeing Wan Yu like this, his interest was slowly aroused. What are you doing? There's a lot of land outside. Once the weeds are cleared, we can plant cabbages. We'll be able to eat fresh vegetables in the future. The young man tucked his hands in his sleeves and said to Wan Yu, someone will bring us fresh fruits and vegetables every day. There's no need to grow them ourselves. Wan Yu gasped. The young man continued, what else? Where do you think the food I've been eating these days came from? Wan Yu was even more confused. For the first time, she was extremely curious about the young man's identity. She lived here for a few days and found that the young man's courtyard was very large. But inside and outside, there were only 2 living people, the 2 of them. Do you think living here is very boring? The young man carried a zither and found a place to sit on the ground. He played a few times and turned to look at Wan Yu. That's true, this place is very remote and close to the imperial mausoleum. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to come close, only then did Wan Yu realize that they were actually living in the back mountains of the imperial mausoleum. It's not very boring. I can see Langjun every day. I feel like a whole day isn't enough. Wan Yu was an honest child. She said whatever she wanted to say, straightforward and pure. Can you read? The young man asked her. I can read a few words. The Empress set a precedent and set up girls' schools in various places. Not only did they teach women how to read, and calculate, but they were also taught self-defense techniques for 4 years. In the Jianghu dynasty, if a woman wanted to marry well or to become an independent woman, she had to choose a husband. The young man asked, do you want to continue learning? I can teach you so that you don't have anything to do and waste your time. Wan Yu nodded heavily, her eyes brightening. She loved to study, but due to a family accident, she only studied for 2 years before returning home. Wan Yu's results in the girls' school were good, but compared to the young man beside her, she seemed to be nothing. Chapter 850. Wan Yu entered the young man's study and found that the large room was filled with bookshelves stacked with countless books. So many, Wan Yu's small mouth opened slightly and forgot to close it for a long time. My father's book collection. The young man's voice had a hint of a smile and a hint of pride. This was the first time Wan Yu heard the young man talk about his family. Unknowingly, Wan Yu had been here for half a year and the deadline with the Iceman was approaching. Wan Yu was so anxious that she couldn't even concentrate on her daily studies and was quickly seen through by the young man. If you don't like learning, then give it up, why force yourself? Listening to Wan Yu's messy playing, the young man's face flashed with anger. Wan Yu hung her head, dispirited and stammering as she voiced out her worries. Just for this? The young man was surprised. Wan Yu said, if Langjun doesn't like it, then the Iceman will send me back and then I'll be sold by Auntie again. The young man sat by the zither table, not knowing what to think. I'm afraid that for the rest of my life I'll be neighbors with the mausoleum and never be able to leave. The young man sighed, you're still young, I'll talk to that woman and ask her to help you arrange a marriage. She's the most obedient lackey in the world, obeying the orders of the most powerful person in the world. Yu didn't know why the young man wanted to live in seclusion near the mausoleum, but from the looks of it, he had his own reasons as well as external constraints. For more than half a year, the young man's largest area of activity was near the mausoleum, and he never spent the night outside, returning as soon as it was dark. But, what if Yu covets Langjuan's looks and no longer likes anyone else? The Jiang dynasty was open. It was common for women to confess their love to men. In the troubled times of 20 or 30 years ago, Yu could have married at this age. You're still young. In a few days you'll be 12, in a few years you'll be 18, not young. After rounding it up, she would be an adult. Yu gathered her courage. She knew that there was no better person in the world than the young man in front of her. The young man was speechless. Facing Yu, who was smaller than him, he didn't say anything. In his eyes she was just a naive child. Yu had lived with the young man in the back mountain of the mausoleum for nearly 6 years. In the blink of an eye, she had grown into a slender and elegant beauty. The young man still looked the same, except that his facial features were more mature. Time seemed to have stopped on him. One day, she went out to pick some fruits that she had planted. When she returned home, she found that there were many exquisite carriages and horses outside the courtyard. She nervously moved forward, but was not stopped. Yu saw the Iceman from several years ago. He was dressed in a green and white chrysanthemum dress, looking very capable and experienced. Who are you? Yu asked anxiously. The other party also looked at her. After a while, he recognized her as the girl from many years ago. The first lady is talking to the second Langjun inside. Let's wait here. Iceman nodded and smiled at her, which made Yue even more nervous. The first lady, inside, was that his family? It was strange. Since when you first met the young man, he had always been wearing plain clothes, a plain forehead cloth, and a belt. He even avoided greasy food. If he was mourning for his family, he wouldn't have been mourning for 6 or 7 years, would he? Standing in the corridor, Yu relied on her good hearing to faintly hear the conversation in the room. After a few years, have you reflected on yourself? The one who spoke was a woman. Her voice was slightly hoarse, but inexplicably carried a strong aura. The young man sneered. What do I have to reflect on myself? The woman said, even now, you still don't think you're wrong? The young man pursed his lips and said nothing. Yu's heart inexplicably tightened. Although she didn't know what happened to the young man's family, she had been with him for many years and often saw regret and frustration in his eyes. The young man's voice rose a few octaves. He said, you think I'm wrong? Jiang Yan, you've had all the good things in the world. Why is it that even when I'm asking for an explanation, I'm being accused of a treason? We're clearly siblings from the same mother. You're powerful, and I'm just the son of a concubine. You've been carefully taught by her, and I've been secretly ridiculed. Jiang Yan, how have I done worse than you? You were born a proud son of heaven, but when I was born, my identity was erased, and I was marked as a dead person. Has she ever asked me how I feel? Yu was frightened like a startled bird. She had known the young man for so many years, but when had she ever seen him so emotional? The woman in the room said calmly, in the end, it's still hard for you to calm down. Yes. The young man said, would rather accept the imperial edict and commit suicide in front of the palace than live out my days in this mausoleum's back mountain. The woman sighed. I thought that since you've lived here for so long, you should be able to calm down and reflect on the situation back then. The Grand Tutor has high hopes for you, and Mother has high expectations for you, but you only know how to throw a tantrum. Ask for an explanation? The price of asking for an explanation is simply too heavy. The young man didn't answer, but the sound of something heavy falling came from the room, as if someone had thrown something on the table to the ground. Jiang Yan, it's easy for you to say. She's never looked me in the eye, not even once. If he didn't know the truth, the young man could still muddle along. No matter what, he was the only son of the Grand Tutor of the current crown princess. Even though he was Ting Chia's bastard son, he could still live a happy life. However, the truth was cruel. He was actually the son of the emperor, and back then, he was posthumously conferred the title of Crown Prince Jianghu. Two identities, one earth, the other heaven. He couldn't calm down. Why did he have to be stripped of his identity at birth? Since he was to be despised and abandoned at birth, he might as well not have been born at all. They were of the same mother, but their treatment was so different. At that time, he was indeed naive and ignorant, deceived by others. He actually suspected that his biological father wasn't his biological father, but a villain who had secretly stolen the crown prince. He mistakenly thought his biological father was his enemy. Later, he found out that the person who had stripped him of his identity was none other than the sovereign of the 9 and 5. Before he could recover from such a huge truth, one blow after another came crashing down on him, causing him to see stars. His biological father insisted that he was impersonating Crown Prince Jianghu, and before he could refute, he pulled out his sword and committed suicide. When the young man received this news, his vision darkened. He felt as if the world had collapsed, and he couldn't hear anything else. His biological mother, who was said to have passed away, woke up again. Under the terrified gazes of the civil and military officials, she methodically cleaned up a bunch of rebels. Those who should be arrested were arrested, and those who should be killed were killed. Those who were arrogant and complacent not long ago were all sent to prison, but he, the mastermind, was left to the side, and he didn't even look at him. Even when his biological mother really passed away due to a critical illness, he still didn't receive any word about his punishment. He was actually like a clown, ignored to this point. You didn't look at me properly? The woman smiled. So, that's what you think. Then, do you want to hear what I have to say? Chapter 851. The woman said, "You must have investigated the past since you're living here, right? Don't deny it. I know better than you what books are in the study. The world is unstable, and there are many contradictions in the court. Mother spends 14 to 16 hours a day busy with court affairs. You can follow the grand tutor into the palace and see her a few times a year. What about me? When you're tired of studying, you throw a tantrum and refuse to learn. The grand tutor patiently coaxes you, but what about me? I can only be accompanied by books, and I can't finish learning every day. In my spare time, I'm even taken to the common people to experience their situation. I've been a dock laborer, learned to beg on the streets, and hid in the countryside to investigate the people's situation. Wait, Song, can I hate you too? I don't even dare to fall sick. Other than the maids, no one is by my side. When you're slightly ill, the grand tutor stays up all night watching over you. Mother is so busy that she even grabs the imperial physician for questioning. Wait, Song, you live a relaxed and happy life. But have you ever thought about the suffering of others? Outside the room, Wanhua listened with worry. Mother also said before she passed away that she regretted letting you live too comfortably. That's why she had so much time to think. The grand tutor feels guilty for spoiling you too naively. Just a mere rumor can make you feel uneasy. Tell me, other than the throne, what do you have that makes you feel uneasy? The woman continued, Mother fought for the world. You're only her son, not her. She can give the world to whoever she wants. So what if you're her son? Must she leave the world to you? The youth couldn't bear it any longer. I never wanted the world. I only hoped that she would acknowledge me, that I could properly call her mother, and that I could be recorded in the genealogy. But everyone told me that I was only a disgrace to her. He was young and insensible, and he was used as a sharp knife to stab his loved one in the chest. How could he want this? He watched over the coffin for 12 years. Did she really think that he was an unfilial son and wasn't sad at all? You're recorded as a legitimate son in the Wei family genealogy, the woman said. In the genealogy, the legal wife next to the grand tutor is Lu Lanting. The youth didn't recover for a moment. Back then, mother only wanted to have one child. However, she was concerned about the grand tutor, so she took the risk to give birth to you. Her original intention was for you to accompany the Grand Tutor and inherit the Wei family. The woman suddenly said, in front of others, I can only call him Grand Tutor. I also want to properly call him father. The young man was speechless. Forget it. It's all history from more than a decade ago. I didn't come here today to talk nonsense with you. The woman said, it's about time for you and Ning Wanhua to get married. As your older sister, I should send you a congratulatory gift. If you and her descendants can be of great use, I will pardon them and allow them to enter the imperial court. If you think it through, send someone to let me know. If you haven't figured it out, you can continue to be the guardian. Before his mother passed away, she had left behind a posthumous edict that punished Wei Tsong to guard the coffin for 12 years. Now, the time limit was up. This was the first time Ning Wanhua saw Wei Tsong's older sister, Jiang Yan, for the last time. Upon seeing the other party, Ning Wanhua hurriedly greeted him. The other party stood by her side and said, take good care of him for us. Don't spoil him too much. We? Ning Wanhua's eyes widened in fright. By the time she regained her senses, the other party had already left, leaving behind only countless betrothal gifts and dowry. Lang Jun? Your older sister. The young man's face darkened. He was in a very bad mood as he plucked the zither from time to time. Call me Fusho. I want to hear someone call me that again. The young man had a name. His surname was Wei, and his given name was Kong. His courtesy name was Tingzhang. He was one of the people involved in the once sensational Crown Prince Zhang's case. Fusho. Before Ning Wanhua could finish, the young man said hoarsely, she won't come again. You should also leave. You want to drive me away? Ning Wanhua tugged at her sleeves and bit her lower lip. That's right. How can my identity be worthy of you? How could she have imagined that the young man, who wore plain clothes all year round, was actually a member of the imperial family? Ning Wanhua was just a country girl. Even though she had studied with the young man for several years, she was still lacking something. To put it bluntly, she didn't look like a crown prince when she wore a dragon robe. The young man plucked the zither in silence. After a while, he said, your life will be so boring if you follow me. Ning Wanhua said, I've lived here with you for 6 years. Have you ever heard me say that it's boring? The young man was distraught. He put the zither to the side. Shout for me again. Ning Wanhua had thought that there was no hope. After hearing his words, she hesitated and called out, Fusho. The young man said, when I was young, I made a huge mistake. Even though I guarded the coffin for 12 years, I still couldn't erase the wound in my heart. Ning Wanhua said, since you're so remorseful, why did you talk back to that lord just now? The young man didn't answer. He was afraid that if he admitted defeat, even the last family member who was willing to pay attention to him would ignore him. He had guarded the coffin here for 12 years and had only seen his older sister twice in total. The first time was when he had just been sent to the back mountain of the imperial mausoleum. The second time was today. He was a commoner, while the other party was the emperor sitting on the dragon throne. If the other party didn't think of him, he wouldn't even be able to enter the imperial city, let alone see her. There are some things you don't understand. The young man hung his head, half of his face buried in the shadows. Ning Wanhua really didn't understand. The young man continued, she's still patient with me. I can beg her to bestow you a good marriage. No matter what, she was a student taught by the young man. In terms of talent and learning, few noble ladies in the imperial city could compare to Wanhua. If she had a good identity, she would definitely be rich for the rest of her life. Ning Wanhua was originally sad, but when she heard the young man's words, she suddenly laughed. The young man asked, what are you laughing at? Ning Wanhua said, I just feel that there's still hope for me to stay by your side. If you don't care about me, why bother using the word beg? I've been with you for many years, but I've never seen you use such a word. Now that you're willing to use it for me, it shows that I still have some weight in your heart. Tell me, shouldn't I be happy for myself? The young man was speechless. Ning Wanhua said, I'm just a country girl, but now that I have the chance to tie the knot with you, I can't be more than happy. The young man looked at Ning Wanhua and faintly understood why Jiang Yan's confidant chose her and sent her to his side. Fusho, is your sister really Her Majesty? Ning Wanhua rested her cheeks on her hands. Her cheeks were flushed, and her eyes were sparkling. It was said that both empresses were wise rulers who loved the people like their own children. Especially the current empress, who was honest and loved the people. When the empress ascended to the throne, she swore to follow her mother's example and never got married. Although she never got married, she gave birth to a daughter a few years ago. Her biological father's identity was still unknown. However, the people were more concerned about achievements and didn't pay much attention to the emperor's private life. When Ning Wanhua was young, she often heard her father talk about the achievements of the two emperors. Her father was born in troubled times, and he admired the two emperors the most. In her father's words, an emperor who could let the people live a good life was a good emperor. As for the disputes in the imperial court, they were too far away from the common people. Under her father's influence, Ning Wanhua was also a die-hard fan of the empress. The young man saw her blushing cheeks and thought of his biological sister's appearance, and he felt inexplicably suffocated. Ning Wanhua asked him, Does Fusho still have to keep vigil here? The young man said, Mother. The former empress punished me to keep vigil for 12 years. At first, I wanted to leave at all times, but now I don't want to. Ning Wanhua asked doubtfully, because the knot in Fusho's heart hasn't been resolved? Or is it because the 12 years haven't passed? The time limit is up. Otherwise, why would Her Majesty condescend to come all the way here? The young man spoke insincerely. He clearly looked forward to this day. He occasionally knew how busy this imperial sister was from the books in the market. She wasn't as leisurely as his mother back then, and it wasn't easy for her to take the time to make such a trip. I just don't want to leave. Ning Wanhua said, Why? I'm afraid you don't know. If I hadn't been too stupid back then and made a huge mistake. How could the former empress have died so early? Ning Wanhua somewhat disagreed. She said, But I heard. I only heard father mention that the former empress's health wasn't very good, and she had the intention of abdicating the throne back then. I think, with the former empress's temperament of being responsible for the people, she wouldn't have easily abandoned her heavy burden and let Her Majesty succeed the throne unless it was something beyond her control, right? Perhaps the former empress's health really wasn't good back then and she wanted to abdicate the throne. What she said next might touch the young man's sore spot, so Ning Wanhua didn't dare to continue. The young man said, Just continue. Ning Wanhua scratched her head and said, This. I'm thinking, maybe the former empress's condition wasn't good back then, so she wanted to unload her burden and take a good look at her empire? The former empress sacrificed most of her life to end the chaotic era. It would be a pity if she didn't take a good look at her empire. The young man looked at Ning Wanhua silently. Since your period of vigil is up, why don't you walk around and take a look at the former empress? Your painting skills are excellent. You can draw it. Ning Wanhua originally wanted to persuade the young man to let go of the knot in his heart, but when she saw his slightly red eyes, she didn't know how to continue. Let me lean on you. I'll be fine in a while. The young man leaned on her shoulder and didn't say anything for a long time. Night fell outside. The young man restrained his emotions and got up to open the boxes placed in the corner of the study. There were a total of 16 boxes, and they were neatly stacked. Ning Wanhua had never seen him open any of the boxes in the past few years. These are my father's brushes and ink. The young man opened the boxes one by one. Ning Wanhua could still smell the fragrance of the ink on them. After they were unfolded, a magnificent scene appeared in front of her eyes. She finally knew where the young man learned his exquisite painting skills from. He rarely painted people. Most of his paintings were landscape paintings. When I looked at his paintings in the past, I always felt that he had a knot in his heart. Now that I look at it again, I realize how shallow I am. Ning Wanhua finally understood that these boxes contained the belongings of the young man's father. They were all books, poems, and paintings. Apart from a few land deeds, there were no other yellow or white objects. The cool breeze never stops, the fragrance of flowers fills the path, and the red clouds ripple for thousands of miles. The painting depicted a lotus in full bloom. The lotus leaves seemed to sway with the wind, and one could faintly smell a sweet fragrance. A graceful figure stood in the pavilion in the middle of the lake. She seemed to be looking at the person in the painting with a smile. Chapter 852. It was late spring in March, and the grass was long and the birds were flying. It was supposed to be a time of prosperity, but no one was enjoying the scenery. Shiba, Songzhou. Songzhou was originally one of the 33 counties in the 10 states of Zhongzhou. After the fall of Zhongzhou, there were endless disputes among the feudal lords. Songzhou had changed hands several times, and now it had a new master. Shiba was the largest city in Songzhou. At this time, the flames of war had just subsided, but inside and outside the city, there was still fear. Even the commoners could feel the tension in the air. There were a few commoners sitting in the tea house. They whispered to each other and spoke in a low voice, as if afraid of being heard by a third person. "Hey, have you heard? Our current one." The man in coarse gray hemp pointed to the top of his head, with some fear and disgust on his face. Turns out to be from the Liu family of Hejin County. But, didn't I hear that she started out as a bandit? The Liu family of Hejin? Never heard of it. The original gentry clan in Dongqing. Actually, they are not big families here, but at least they are stronger than bandits. As the two were whispering, there was a sneer from the side. They all looked over and saw that the person who spoke was a rough man. Judging by his clothes, he was also an ordinary person. Your information is already outdated. The man drank the coarse tea and narrowed his eyes. There was a hint of mockery on his face as he said to the two. The original defending general pushed the old man's father to the wall and forced him to retreat. What do you think the old man did? She actually said that she was born and raised by heaven and killed her old father in front of the battle. TSK, TSK, TSK. She died a quick death. When the people in the tea house heard this, they were so shocked that they looked around, afraid that there would be soldiers outside rushing in to arrest them. However, they were really curious and pestered the strong man to ask for details. The strong man was reserved for a while, then smiled and revealed the information he knew. The person he mentioned was the new master of Shiba, one of the feudal lords of the world, the Jianghu family. As for her killing her father in front of the battle, it was even more interesting. The Jianghu family's troops besieged Shiba for more than 2 months. The two sides fought several times, and Shiba's disadvantage became more and more obvious. Seeing that the city was about to be breached, the nobles in Shiba became more and more anxious. They'd heard of the rumors of the Jiang clan plundering like locusts. If the city was breached, then their savings would be lost. Many nobles chose to flee in secret. Only one family didn't leave. Instead, when they were drunk, they proudly claimed that they were the biological father of the lord of the Jiang clan outside the city. This was terrible. That person was captured by the city guards and used to threaten the Jiang clan's troops outside the city to retreat. The person who was taken away was none other than Lu Shi. Lu Shi was originally from Hejin County in Dongqing. A few years ago, Dongqing was destroyed and plunged into the flames of war. The second branch of the Liu family in Hejin County took all their wealth and fled to Zhongzhou to seek refuge. Coincidentally, he was in Songzhou. Some listeners didn't believe it. Maybe it was Lu Shi in disguise? The brawny man smiled and said, Lu Shi is the biological father of the Jiang family. Everyone in Dongqing knew about this. Madame Jiang used to be a bandit in Dongqing. Later on, she caused a ruckus and the imperial court sent her to Hu County. When she was conferred an official position, the father and daughter quarreled. Lu Shi even revealed another incident. It turns out that this bloodthirsty evil girl killed Lu Shi's only son. First, she killed her own brother. Now, she killed her father. This vicious woman was nothing more than this. No wonder. I always felt that the atmosphere these 2 days was strange. It was because of this. The people in the tea house were all denouncing her, but no one dared to raise their voice. After all, this was someone else's matter. Why should they sacrifice their lives for the sake of justice? At this moment, a troop of nearly 1,000 soldiers escorted a number of carriages into the city. The carriages were filled with sobbing sounds. The leader of the group was a woman with a pale face. Her hair was messy, and her wrinkled face was dull. Her eyes were sunken. Outside, a burly general in armor rode a tall horse. He held a horsewhip in his right hand and walked in front of the troops. Not long after, a young general in white and silver armor galloped over on a horse. He was holding a long silver spear in his hand. General Fu, Han Mei is here. How is the Lord? General Fu Wang came to his senses and hurried forward to welcome him. She's fine. It's just that, the Lord doesn't seem to be in a good mood. Fu Wang snorted and sneered. Those literati only know how to cause trouble. Li Yun tightened his grip on the reins and did not reply. Fu Wang secretly patted Li Yun's arm and said in a low voice, "Don't worry. The Lord has military power in her hands. They won't be able to cause trouble. Besides, we don't even know if that Lu something is the Lord's biological father. He's not fit to rely on the Lord." The literati had failed to rebel for 3 years. What was there to be afraid of? A bunch of old men who only knew how to kill her father in front of the battlefield and scolded the Lord for being cruel and tyrannical? How many soldiers had been sacrificed to besiege Songzhou? Victory was at hand. Halfway through, a father had appeared and forced them to retreat and give up the territory they had previously conquered. How was that possible? If the Lord was worthy of her biological father and retreated, would she be worthy of the soldiers who had died in battle? Fu Wang did not expect his Lord to be so decisive. She killed without hesitation. The two of them escorted the dozens of women in the carriage into the city to see Jianghu. These women could prove that the Lord was not Lu Shi's biological daughter. As long as this relationship was denied, there was naturally no crime of kill her father in front of the battlefield. Raise your head, the cold voice was a little hoarse, adding a bit of magnetism. At first glance, it did not sound like a woman's voice. Gu Zhen knelt down shakily. When she heard the voice, she suppressed her fear and raised her head slightly, but she did not dare to look directly at the woman sitting at the head of the table. Who would have thought that the person who was regarded as a disgrace by the Lu family and humiliated by Lu Shi would one day become the most powerful feudal lord in the world? Lady Gu Zhen, I invited you here to ask you some questions. Jiang Pengji, who was sitting at the head of the table, was about 27 or 28 years old. She had an imposing manner and was dignified without being angry. Gu Zhen was Lu Shi's legal wife. Unfortunately, she was old and frail, so Lu Shi never doted on her. The second branch of the Lu family fled to Songzhou to dominate. Lu Shi's lust was aroused again. He took in dozens of beautiful concubines and allowed his beloved concubines to humiliate his wife. Gu Zhen aged extremely quickly. Her hair was gray, and she looked like a lamp that had run out of oil. Go ahead and ask, Lord Jiang. Gu Zhen's back was curled up. Her body was hunched, and she looked particularly pitiful. You and I both know that although I'm registered under your name, I'm not your daughter. Jiang Pengji went straight to the point. Gu Zhen's face turned pale when she heard this. Jiang Pengji seemed to not see her reaction and said coldly, my real birth mother, whose name is Gu Min, died from dystocia when she gave birth to me. After you were widowed for less than 2 years, you married Lu Shi with me. Am I right? Gu Zhen was the illegitimate daughter of the Gu family in Langya. She was very inconspicuous. Gu Min was the legitimate daughter of the Gu family. Unfortunately, she was born with dementia and had never married in her life. Chapter 853. Lu Shi accidentally saw Gu Min's beauty and was shocked. He took advantage of her stupidity and found an opportunity to humiliate her and make her pregnant. By the time everyone noticed the abnormality, she was already 6 months pregnant. Gu Zhen had known about this a long time ago. She had been helping to cover it up and tolerating it. When the truth came out, she would stand up and be willing to bear the stigma of being pregnant out of wedlock. She would protect Gu Min's reputation and marry Lu Shi with the child. She had taken all the benefits, and poor Gu Min had died of a hemorrhage. Hearing Jiang Pengji talk about the past, Gu Zhen could not stop trembling. Jiang Pengji asked again, "Why? Are you feeling uneasy now that you've been exposed?" Gu Zhen trembled even more violently. Jiang Pengji said, "I don't want anything else today. I just want you to admit one thing." Gu Zhen looked up as if she had seen a glimmer of hope. "You admit that you had an illicit affair with another man and that you gave the child's father to Lu Shi." Gu Zhen's expression became conflicted and strange. Jiang Pengji said, "Would rather bear the title of an illegitimate child than have anything to do with a disgusting person like Lu Shi." As for her real birth mother, Gu Min, Jiang Pengji did not want her to have a bad reputation. That was good enough. Gu Dai held back her trembling and tightened her jaw muscles. She said, "Others won't believe it. It doesn't matter if others believe it or not. What's important is that there's such a saying." Jiang Pengji smiled. "If you do well, I'll guarantee that you'll have a comfortable life in your old age. If you don't know what's good for you, I can find other witnesses. I even killed Lu Shi, let alone you." Even though many years had passed, she still remembered how widow Zhao of the Zhao family village in Hejin County had died. Gu Zhen was so scared that her face turned pale. She answered while trembling. With this, official and unofficial history had a lot more material for people to talk about. The official history stated that the father of the Empress was Lu Shi from Hejin County, but the unofficial history stated that it was someone else. This was because Gu Zhen had personally admitted that she had an affair with someone else, yet she refused to say who the man was. This caused people's imagination to run wild. Therefore, the mystery of the Empress's birth became a hot topic for scholars of later generations. The royal family turned a blind eye, allowing them to talk about their ancestors. It was fine as long as these scholars didn't cause too much trouble. With this, the storm of killing one's father on the battlefield barely subsided. However, that was not the only thing that worried Jiang Pengji. Huang Song, who was the most competitive, had already committed suicide. The Nie family was only left with the remnants of their troops and defeated generals. Now, there were only 3 feudal families left in the world. Jiang Pengji single-handedly defeated the other 2. If there were no accidents, the world would be unified within 5 years. This was the consensus of everyone. This was a good thing, but Jiang Pengji's subordinates were not happy. Their lord was now 29 years old and still had no children. How could they not be worried? Without an heir, even if the dynasty was unified, its inheritance would be severed after a few decades, and the world would fall into chaos. Without an heir, he would always feel anxious. In short, Jiang Pengji was being urged to get married. Not only were the strategists sighing, but many of the trusted generals were also hesitant to speak. The eunuch is more anxious than the emperor. If the lord was a man, they only needed to send a beauty. If this woman couldn't give birth, they could just change to another one. However, the lord was a woman, and giving birth required the lord to do it personally. This was a pain in the ass. They couldn't even persuade the other party to pamper their harem. Because the lord did not have a backyard. This matter is not urgent. Jiang Pengji smiled as she drank. Sitting next to her was her drinking buddy, Feng Zhen. The two of them often colluded with each other. Their figures shuttled back and forth between various taverns, teahouses, and brothels. She's only 29 now. What's the rush? Feng Zhen choked on the fragrant wine in his mouth. 29 years old and she was not anxious? Did she have to wait until she was 39 before she started worrying? The lord became a bandit at the age of 12. She joined the army at the age of 16. She traveled from south to north. Now, at the age of 29, she only had such a foundation. How could there be so many years for her to squander? She was urged to get married by her subordinates in various ways. No matter how much Jiang Pengji didn't care, she could only think about this matter. Qiguan Rang said, with the Lord's power, you can secretly choose someone who is good in all aspects. When the time comes, you can get rid of the father and keep the child. Wouldn't that work? Jiang Pengji glanced at Qiguan Rang and asked him with her eyes, how can you think of such a bad idea? Qiguan Rang returned a cold look. Why don't you think of a good idea yourself? Jiang Pengji sighed again. I'd rather have nothing than have something shoddy. If it's not the best and most suitable, I don't want anything else. Qiguan Rang's face remained cold. His children would be able to get married in a few years, but the Lord was still single. Seeing that the great undertaking of unifying the world was about to enter the final stage, there was no movement from Jiang Pengji. The wind of urging people to get married had blown to Wuxia. Even an invisible person like him knew about this matter. It was obvious how anxious everyone was. Wuxia had been keeping a low profile for the past 2 years, but his performance in the Battle of Songzhou was quite eye-catching. If there were no accidents, he would definitely be put in an important position. Although unifying the world was imminent, there were still many battles to be fought. If Wuxia could seize the opportunity, he would not have to worry about fame and fortune. He eavesdropped on Han Yu for a while and secretly noted this matter down. One day, when she was dealing with documents, Jiang Pengji pulled her to talk about business for a while. They also chatted about many trivial matters. Wuxia took the opportunity to mention the matter of the heir. He spoke more tactfully than others, but the core meaning was still the same. Jiang Pengji was stunned for a moment. Her eyes inexplicably became a little sharper. She asked calmly, what do you think, Zixiao? Wuxia tried to figure out Jiang Pengji's thoughts. He felt that she was afraid of having a husband to divide the power, so he made the same suggestion as Qiguan Rang. Get rid of the father and keep the child. Anyway, it was the Lord who gave birth to the child. The child would be the Lord's bloodline. As for who the father was, it was not important. Jiang Pengji laughed. The smile on her face was disturbing. Is it really not important who the father is? Wuxia did not understand. He was stunned for 2 seconds, but he still nodded. As long as it was the Lord's child, it was bound to be the future heir. Was it important who the husband was? However, when he thought of the person he admired giving birth to children with others, he felt vaguely like a fishbone stuck in his throat. His Lord was still suitable to be enshrined on the altar. It was not only him. Perhaps everyone else thought so. After a few days, Jiang Pengji seemed to be annoyed by the urging to get married. She was finally willing to compromise. She said to Wuxia in private, this is my personal matter. It's not good to trouble others. Wuxia did not respond for a moment. There was a problem with his Lord's logic. He also belonged to the category of others. However, he more or less knew his Lord's temperament. There were some points that he really could not criticize. Jiang Pengji said again, anyway, they just want a young lord to feel at ease. Then I'll go along with their wishes. As long as a man is not a castrated eunuch, he can make a woman pregnant if he's healthy. I don't want to be picky. You can make arrangements according to my orders. Wuxia was stunned. He did not expect his lord to be so casual. There's no time like the present. Let's choose today. Jiang Pengji smiled and squinted her eyes. She leaned sideways on the table and said as if it had nothing to do with her, after the 3rd watch today, the first man to pass by the back door of my manor will be the biological father of the next young lord. Wuxia was so shocked that he was speechless. However, thinking about this style, it was indeed like his lord's temperament. The fewer people who knew the identity of his lord's biological father, the better. His lord chose him to do this because she trusted him. Wuxia could only bow his head and agree. The day and night were quite torturous. The strange feeling of having a fishbone stuck in his throat became more and more agitated as time went by. Hearing the sound of the third watch, Wei Ci was shocked. Under Jiang Pengji's gaze, he got up and went to check. There were female guards guarding the front and back doors of Jiang Pengji's manor. He opened the door and took a look. There was not even a male kitten or puppy, let alone a shadow of a man. Wei Ci turned around and reported. Jiang Pengji, the person involved, was not anxious at all. Come, Zixiao, sit down. Let's have a drink together. Jiang Pengji pointed to the chair opposite the table. Wei Ci could hold his liquor well, but he was unwilling to drink in front of Jiang Pengji. He was always afraid that he would lose his composure after drinking and offend her. Jiang Pengji smiled and asked about Wei Ci's family situation. She already knew about it, but hearing it from him personally made her feel different. After almost an hour, Wei Ci got up again. It was still quiet outside and there was not a single person. What was going on today? Did all the night owls go home to sleep? Wei Ci was puzzled. When he saw the faint smile on Jiang Pengji's face, he suddenly saw the light. There were no more night owls. It was obvious that his lord was unwilling and had sent people to clear the place. If my lord is unwilling, why do you have to tease me? Jiang Pengji said, when did I tease you? Wei Ci said, there is no one at night. Didn't my lord send people to guard all the main roads and seal off this road? Jiang Pengji said, who said there is no one? Wei Ci opened his eyes slightly in shock. Wait, something was not right. Is the person in front of me not a person? Wei Ci listened and looked around. He did not see any traces of a third person. His heart sank. The person that his lord was referring to could not be himself, right? My lord, since Zixiao also said that it is not important who the father of the child is, why are you stingy for one night? Jiang Pengji got up and came to Wei Ci's side. She looked down at his pale face from above and sat beside him. A gentleman's word is as good as a fast horse's whip. I said that I want to choose a man who appears at the back door after midnight tonight. But today, there is no one else but Zixiao. Wei Ci bowed to ask for forgiveness and said, I know that I am lowly and dare not blaspheme the holy body. Jiang Pengji laughed angrily. You dare not blaspheme? Why don't you think that it is blasphemy when I casually said that I want to choose any man who appears at the back door? Whether that person is beautiful or ugly, good or bad, healthy or sick, you don't know anything. Isn't this blasphemy? Wei Ci crouched on the ground. He seemed to have 1,000 words in his mouth, but now they were stuck in his throat. He could not say a word. Jiang Pengji half squatted and raised her hand to pinch his lower jaw, forcing the two to look at each other. I have thought about it. Zixiao is the best. He has no family to implicate and is my loyal subject. I can be at ease. Wei Ci said after a while, I am old and weak. I am unable to serve my lord. Jiang Pengji said, you are only 6 or 7 years older than me. She changed the action of pinching his lower jaw to caress his cheek. Her palm touched a hot patch and she pressed it against the floor beside the table. Tonight, will you obey me? Chapter 854. Jing felt that the past few days were probably the most torturous and full of ups and downs for him. When he heard that Jiang Pengji asked him to go back, he felt as if he had been pardoned. He secretly wiped the cold sweat off his face, bowed, and retreated. Looking at the blazing fire in the distance, Jing's fear of Jiang Pengji deepened. Who exactly was this person? He was actually able to kill that kind of demon over and over again? Most importantly, would that monster rise from the ashes and descend upon the world once more? Jing did not know any of these things. He sat in the carriage and prepared to return to the place where he was staying. There was a hurried sound of horse hooves in front of him. His coachman had to give way. Why was there someone galloping on a horse on the street at this time? Jing lifted the curtain of the carriage and saw that the person riding on the horse looked very familiar. He could not help but call out, Zixiao. The night was too dark. He only felt that the figure was very familiar. He could not see the side of the face clearly, so he was not sure if it was Wei Ci. Qing Jing and Wei Ci were both disciples of Master Yuanjing. They were not only brothers but also close friends who appreciated each other's talents. However, there were no convenient communication tools in this era. There was no internet or video chat. They could only rely on letters that were not safe and efficient. Speaking of which, Qing Jing and Wei Ci had not seen each other for almost 3 or 4 years. How could he not be surprised that they could meet again? If not, how could meeting an old friend in a foreign land be one of the 4 happy events in life? The man on the horse heard someone calling him and hurriedly pulled the reins. Following the voice, wasn't that Wei Ci's face? Yumo? Wei Ci was also pleasantly surprised. He did not expect to see his old friend here. It was a pity that it was not the time for old friends to catch up. He hurried over from Shangjing because he had an urgent matter to attend to. He could only postpone the reunion. Qing Jing could also see that Wei Ci was covered in dust. He had probably suffered a lot. He said with understanding, I'm still in Xiangyang these few days. There's no hurry to catch up. Zixiao, go and do your work first. Wei Ci bowed while riding on the horse. He waved the whip again and rushed towards the district headquarters. Qing Jing was surprised. He did not know what happened to make Wei Ci in such a hurry. Jiang Pengji had the same question. She had just sent someone to deal with the corpse of the time traveler when Wei Ci asked to see her. Isn't Zixiao building the provincial government in Shangjing? The weather was still hot and they had to travel back and forth. Wei Ci's body was weak, what if he fell ill? Quickly let them in and prepare some food to warm their stomachs. Zixiao has been traveling all the way, I'm afraid he won't have time to have a good meal. Jiang Pengji ordered someone to prepare supper in the small kitchen. Just then, Wei Ci came in from outside, his face still covered with some dust stains. Greetings, my lord. Wei Ci saluted. Jiang Pengji asked him to stand up. What happened in Shangjing? Why did you suddenly come back? Calculating the time, Wei Ci should have stayed in Shangjing for a month before returning. Could it be that something went wrong during the construction of the prefecture? Jiang Pengji looked at Wei Ci's face and saw that he was calm. It seemed like it was not a bad thing. As expected, Wei Ci took out a few pieces of rolled-up paper from the bamboo tube hanging on his waist. There are some things that are difficult to decide, so I hurried back to hand them over to my lord to make a decision. Although Jiang Pengji had given the authority to rebuild Shangjing to Wei Ci and Zhang Ping, they had a sense of propriety and still had to consult her on some matters. Jiang Pengji said as she took the paper, your body has yet to recover. If there's anything urgent, you can just send someone to pass it to me. Why do you have to personally make a trip? The weather is still hot and you can't stand the heat. What if you fall ill on the way? Wei Ci heard this and lowered his head slightly. He did not dare to look up at her, but his ears were very hot and it made him feel uncomfortable. Jiang Pengji did not care about Wei Ci's reaction. Instead, she carefully looked at the things that Wei Ci had brought. There were many miscellaneous things inside, but there were 2 things that were the most important. One was Ji Shan outside Shangjing. Ji Shan had many hot springs, which was a gift from the heavens. During the earthquake in Shangjing, Ji Shan's hot springs were destroyed on a large scale. The spring's mouth changed greatly. Wei Ci wanted to take advantage of the reconstruction and reorganize the area around Ji Shan. He could not let it go to waste. Of course, Zhang Ping disagreed with him. In Zhang Ping's inherent impression, hot springs were something that only the rich and powerful had the right to enjoy. It was a symbol of extravagance. Now that even Shangjing had not been rebuilt, why should they allocate manpower to Ji Shan's hot springs? Wouldn't it be a waste? Jiang Pengji asked Wei Ci, what do you think, Zixiao? Wei Ci said, I have a different opinion from Shiheng. If possible, I hope to rebuild Ji Shan. The damage to Ji Shan's hot springs was not very great. If they waited for a few decades to come back and cause trouble, they did not know if it could be salvaged. Jiang Pengji looked at the letter that Zhang Ping asked Wei Ci to bring along. It contained the reasons for his objection. Zhang Ping did not say that rebuilding the hot springs was just for enjoyment. He just felt that the cost would be too high. Jiang Pengji asked, "Is there any reason?" Wei Ci also knew that if he caused trouble, it would increase the reconstruction budget. He felt a little awkward. He said, "Has my lord thought of staying in Shangjing for a long time in the future?" Jiang Pengji said, "There has been an earthquake in Shangjing. It might not happen again for hundreds of years. Maybe it will happen every few days. No one can predict what will happen in the sky. No one would feel at ease living in this place. If there is further development in the future, we will naturally have to find another place." Based on the earthquake that had happened in Shangjing, if she wanted to unify the world in the future, she would not consider setting the capital here. Wei Ci said, "I have looked carefully. In Shangjing, other than the hot springs and the capital, there is no other outstanding place. Shangjing was no longer the capital, and it would not be the capital in the future. What special feature would it have? There had been an earthquake here. If there were no other means, perhaps this place would not prosper in 100 years. If Jishan's hot springs could be preserved, it would at least be a special feature." Jiang Pengji understood what Wei Ci wanted to express. After a moment of silence, she said, "Let's do as you say." Wei Ci's body trembled, and he bowed to thank her. He was not a stupid person. If he still did not understand, he was afraid that he was really stupid. His lord seemed to be especially indulgent towards him under the premise that it did not violate her principles. Wei Ci was very flustered. There was some indescribable joy, but also some indescribable fear. He did not know how to respond, so he could only choose to remain silent. Other than the matter of Jishan's hot springs, there was another matter that needed Jiang Pengji's approval. This matter could not be said to be big, but it was not small either. Building a reservoir? Jiang Pengji asked, "Whose idea was it?" Wei Ci said, "This was Chongming and Ci's idea. Xiao Guang was inspired by the reservoir in Xiangyang district. He felt that if he could use the terrain to build a reservoir, once it was completed, Xiangyang County would benefit a lot. As long as it was not a particularly serious drought, this place could survive. It was just that the project was too big, and he felt that he could not handle it." Chapter 855. Looking at the blueprint, the size of the reservoir isn't big. Xiao Guang was indeed a disciple of Moism who specialized in water conservancy. The location he chose was excellent, and it seemed like he had done some careful planning. He chose a pocket-shaped basin. The terrain was deep, the reservoir capacity was large, and the water collection area was considerable. There was a natural dam in that area. They only needed to dig out the reservoir and dig a man-made river that was about 100 miles long to divert the water from Dongqing's mother river into the reservoir. The scale is indeed small, but if it's completed, the people of Xiangyang County will not have to worry about drought. Jiang Pengji did not agree easily this time. Instead, she frowned and calculated the pros and cons. There were no explosives or advanced siege weapons. They could only rely on manpower. The difficulty of building the reservoir was not small. Money was not a problem, the key was the lack of manpower. This matter. Let's put it aside for now. Jiang Pengji said, "We'll talk about it after we conquer the northern borderline and have enough manpower." Wei Ci's heart was still heavy with the first sentence, but he could no longer hide the smile on his lips when he heard the second sentence. Jiang Pengji said, "The kitchen has already prepared supper. Go and have some first to avoid hurting your stomach." Wei Ci's ears turned red again. He bowed his head and thanked her for her kindness. Jiang Pengji suddenly asked, "It's already dark. Zixiao, do you want to stay the night?" Wei Ci's hands trembled, and the porcelain bowl in his left hand almost fell on the table. Without waiting for him to react further, she said, "The guest room has been empty. If you stay, it will save you the trouble of running around." Wei Ci relaxed and tactfully declined Jiang Pengji's good intentions. After all, he was an outsider. If he stayed the night, it would be bad for the Lord's reputation. Wei Ci had a simple meal and hurriedly got up to leave, as if there was a terrifying beast chasing after him. Jiang Pengji thoughtfully pinched her chin and looked at Wei Ci's receding figure in deep thought. Is the advice from that group of unreliable people really useful? Can a frog be cooked in warm water? She muttered to herself. Her weak voice was blown away by the night wind. The next day, Wei Ci woke up early. Although he had rushed back from Shangjing, he still made a trip to the government office out of habit. Just as he arrived at the government office, Li Yun ran towards him. He looked very nervous, as if something big had happened. Wei Ci did not react in time and was almost hit by Li Yun. Fortunately, Li Yun had good reflexes and managed to stop the car in time. Otherwise, based on Wei Ci's physical fitness, he would have been sent flying by Li Yun. Wei Ci said with lingering fear, Han Mei, the government office is not allowed to travel quickly. What if we startle the Lord? Li Yun knew he had made a mistake and hurriedly apologized to Wei Ci. Without waiting for Wei Ci's reply, he wanted to leave in a hurry. Han Mei? Wei Ci was shocked and guessed that something big had happened to Li Yun. Otherwise, why would he be in such a state? Li Yun said in a panic, I heard that a poisonous snake sneaked into the stables and scared Whitey. Stable? A venomous snake sneaked in? Wei Ci was stunned. For a moment, he did not understand the precise meaning of these words. A poisonous snake had sneaked into the stable. Why was Li Yun so flustered? Could it be that his beloved horse had been bitten by a poisonous snake? However, White seemed to be the Lord's mount. If anyone were to panic, it should be the Lord who panicked. How could it be Li Yun's turn? Prompted by his curiosity, Wei Ci followed and questioned Li Yun as he walked. After asking in detail, he found out that the foal in White's residence had already been promised to Li Yun by the Lord. Li Yun had been looking forward to the birth of the foal for a few months. In a month's time, White would be due to give birth. He did not expect something like this to happen at the last minute. The poisonous snake had been caught and the horses in the stable were not injured. However, White was frightened and seemed to be going into premature labor. It was not easy for a premature foal to survive. If it encountered a troublesome mare, its chances of survival would be even slimmer. Li Yun had been looking forward to the foal for so long. When he heard the news, he was so anxious that he almost cried. White and Little White lived in the same stable. However, in order to take care of the pregnant White who was about to give birth, Little White was sent to another place by the stableman. Little White seemed to be aware of White's situation and was very anxious. Unlike its usual meek and bashful self, it kept kicking the ground with its hooves, trying to break through the fence. After all, it was a warhorse that had followed the Lord to the battlefield. When Little White became fierce, the stableman's legs trembled in front of it. Seeing Li Yun coming over, the stableman who was taking care of the two horses was excited as if he had seen his savior. Although the stable was kept very clean, there was still a strange smell. Li Yun often dealt with horses, so he did not care about the smell. Wei Ci's expression did not change either. Inside the stable, White was lying on its side on the ground covered with soft hay. Its belly was huge and it was in low spirits. It looked very uneasy. Seeing a stranger coming over, White kept whining and seemed to want to stand up, but after trying for a long time, it could only lie down. Wei Ci said, "What's the use of calling Field Officer Li over when the mare is giving birth?" Instead of preparing to help White, he came to find the ignorant Li Yun. If this was delayed, it would be a tragedy and 2 lives. The stableman was so anxious that he wanted to cry. It was not that he did not want to help White, but it was clear that White and Little White were too fierce and he could not get close. Since the Lord was not around, he could only find Li Yun. No matter what, he had to comfort the mare first. Wei Ci observed for a while and saw the dilemma of the stableman. He could not help but frown. Han Mei, go and pull Little White away. Don't let it cause trouble here. Wei Si asked the stableman to fetch the bridle. He tied it up neatly and fixed the wide sleeves, revealing 2 slender and fair arms. Animals were different from humans. Communication was a problem for both. Fortunately, Little White was intelligent. Facing Liyun, it could still manage to calm down. If it was the stableman, how could he suppress it? White should be injured somewhere. I'm afraid it can't stand up. It looks like it's its first time. Without external help, I'm afraid it can't be born. Wei Si then asked the stableman to fetch some hot water and scissors. Just as he was about to enter the stable where White was, the stableman was scared out of his wits. White was extremely aggressive. Would Wei Si be able to come out alive if he entered? The stableman could not stop it. He could only close his eyes in despair, afraid that White would bite Wei Si to death. The result was unexpected. The originally aggressive White was exceptionally docile in front of Wei Si. It would even rub against his arm from time to time. The stableman muttered, "Isn't this the Lord's horse? Why was it so close to Wei Si? Bear with it. Otherwise, the child won't be born." Wei Si stroked White's mane. He did not find it dirty. He knelt on the ground covered with straw and washed his hands with warm water. He then cleaned the horse's mane. Liyun felt as if his 3 views had been shattered. He carefully lay on the ground outside the fence and stared at Wei Si's movements without blinking. "Wait, Zixiao, you know how to deliver babies?" Wei Si did not answer. He only reached his hand inside and carefully felt the position of the foal, helping it to adjust its position. Not only did he know how to deliver babies, but he also earnestly consulted many midwives. He was very experienced. Chapter 856. Liyun clenched his teeth nervously, as if his wife was waiting to give birth inside. Zixiao, does this hurt?" Looking at Wei Si's actions, Liyun inhaled sharply from time to time. His expression was unusually rich, there was no trace of the cold and fierce general. The stableman felt that he had lived for a long time. A strategist who knew how to deliver a horse, and a general who became silly and sweet in an instant, suddenly felt very down to earth. Wei Si turned his head and said to Liyun, "Go to the side, don't make a ruckus here." Although White was very intelligent, the maras that gave birth were unreasonable. The surrounding environment was too noisy, which was not conducive to the birth. Liyun was scolded. He hurriedly covered his mouth with both hands, his pair of black eyes filled with silent grievance. Wei Si's expression was somewhat solemn. If it was another month, the foal in White's belly would automatically adjust its position, but when he touched the position just now, he realized that the foal's position was not quite right. If that was the case, no matter how hard White tried, the foal could not be pushed out of the birth canal. "Bear with it, it will be fine in a while." Wei Si comforted White's emotions in a gentle voice. It kept whining and became more and more anxious, its ponytail swaying non-stop. Not long after, Jianghu also received the news and hurriedly rushed over. Before she arrived, she could already hear White's whimpering in her ears. "White!" She called out, and Dabai responded with a whimper upon hearing a familiar voice. Jianghu pushed away Liyun, who was blocking the fence, and happened to see Wei Si kneeling on the ground with his arms crossed, his clothes stained. Wei Si had always liked cleanliness. Jianghu did not expect him to disregard the filth and personally deliver a horse. "Zixiao." Jianghu entered the stable. Wei Si heard the movement and said without lifting his head, "Lord, help to stabilize White." As the pain intensified, White might not recognize him. When the time came, the situation would be even worse. "Oh, okay." Jianghu stayed near Wei Si. White stretched out its head and rubbed against her hand, as if complaining about its grievance. With Jianghu around, White's emotions were obviously much calmer. Wei Si was relieved. This was Dabai's first time as a mother, so she didn't have enough experience, so giving birth was going to be a little difficult for her. Wei Ci concentrated on delivering the baby. Hot sweat broke out on his forehead and flowed down his cheeks to his neck, burying into his collarbone. He was about to raise his hand to wipe his sweat with the hem of his sleeve, but the sweat on his forehead had already been wiped away with a handkerchief. My lord, Wei Ci followed the direction of her hand and was almost frightened by Jianghu. Just take care of Dubai. Jianghu retracted her hand, as if the person who wiped his sweat was not her. Wei Ci endured it and could only swallow back the words he had yet to say. At that moment, a crisp ding-dong sound came from Jianghu's mind, and a large system notification popped up. System notification: the merging of the live stream rooms has been completed. The current level is level 6, and the maximum number of live stream rooms is 850,000. Under normal circumstances, when the live stream room was upgraded to level 6, the maximum number of viewers should be 700,000. However, Jianghu snatched the other streaming room and shut down the subsystem. The two streaming rooms had merged. After combining the 700,000 upper limit of the woman from another world and Jianghu's 150,000 upper limit, the upper limit of the streaming room expanded to 850,000. Jianghu glanced at the button to start the streaming room. The originally gray button had turned green, which meant that the streaming room could be operated normally. Jianghu raised her eyebrows. She felt that the bullet screen of the live stream that day would be very interesting. It might turn into a charaba. Start the live broadcast. Jianghu pressed the button, and the beautiful and wide live streaming screen suddenly unfolded. The upper limit of the audience was indeed 850,000. Less than a second after she started the live stream, countless viewers swarmed in, and the empty screen was filled with two kinds of comments. One was red, and the other was blue. Even the ID of the audience was divided into red and blue. Sinyusi, good morning, host. The live broadcast room opened so late today. I'm not in the mood to work today. Qiangbing Jiawu, I heard that the live stream is undergoing maintenance. The upper limit will be increased today. Why do I feel like it's still so hard to get a spot in the live stream? Inya, I think so too. Every time we fight for a seat, it reminds me of the shadow of fighting for a small bench in kindergarten. Luo peanut candy, what's going on today? What happened to Dubai? He doesn't seem to be in a good mood. He zumos wahuan, Dubai is going to give birth. Is Beauty Ci a midwife? Many viewers beat their chests and stamped their feet. Why didn't they have a boyfriend who knew everything except getting pregnant and giving birth? Mo Ling Yin, I'm scared to death. Look at the upper limit of the live stream. Mama, it's actually 850,000. His words caused 1,000 ripples. Many viewers switched the screen to look at the number of viewers online. It was bright red and dazzling 850,000. They all knew about the maintenance and upgrading of the live stream room, but they always thought that an upgrade would increase the upper limit by tens of thousands at most. When the live stream room first appeared, the upper limit was only a pitiful 3,000 viewers. At that time, the audience jokingly called it the ancient era. To be able to get a seat in the live stream room at that time, one must have practiced the Qilan arm. Under the Bodhi tree, there is a grain of sand. I took a look. It's really 850,000. The bullet screen has turned red. In the past, we could only send simple white bullet screens. Now it's red. No, why can we also send blue bullet screens? Many viewers wanted to try the blue bullet screen, but they couldn't find the option to send blue bullet screens. Thousands of miles of mountains and rivers were so beautiful. They didn't expect to see so many blue bullet screens. It made people with obsessive-compulsive disorder uncomfortable. Taking a closer look, these blue bullet screens were a little strange. Sad fat pig Lou, what the hell? Why did the streamer change? I want to swallow heaven grassland, that's strange. Is the live stream room sold? Where did the previous streamer go? What the hell is this place? Watching film plus me, I didn't enter the wrong live stream room. Who the hell is this streamer? Don't call me Big Brother, I'm here to see beautiful girls, not to see two gay men and a mare. What the hell? Compared to the sea of red bullet screens, the number of blue bullet screens was much smaller. It was only 1/3 of the red ones. Xinjia, are all the people above new? Our streamer has never changed, okay? Even if you want to spread rumors, you have to follow the basic rules. Ridiculous. The red and blue bullet screens each had their own opinions. However, the blue bullet screen had a lot of obscenities. The bullet screen immediately exploded. Just then, a system mission announcement popped up. Chapter 857. This bullet screen was the standard brown color, meaning that it was a system announcement, but the audience's ID was blue. Without waiting for the red bullet comments to explode, the viewer with the ID, "Brother has plenty of money," posted another bounty. A song of a beautiful dress danced, and the voice of a beautiful woman spread in all directions. Today, there was an audience member named, "I have plenty of money," who was eager for the host to dance to a song. He requested for the dance to be moving and naked. Mission reward, 9 luxurious private helicopters. Audience member, "Bro has plenty of money," whispered to the host, "Little girl, you just started in this industry, right? Be a little sweeter and call me hubby. In the future, I will especially treat you well and reward you." What? The audience in front of the screen was dumbfounded when they saw this bullet screen. When they came back to their senses, they were filled with endless anger. If it could be said that it was just brewing and about to erupt just now, then it was like magma gushing out, rushing into the sky. The overwhelming red bullet screen flooded in, and in an instant, the blue bullet screen was completely overshadowed. Happy point, I have plenty of money. Did your village just connect to the internet? Tell me your home address, and I'll fly over to chop you up. Only 9 luxurious private helicopters, equivalent to 9,000 renminbi, Liang Jingru gave you the courage to pretend to be rich in the live broadcast room? Zangshua Shijian, what kind of country bumpkin is this? Nutty and little pudding, how dare you jump out without understanding the status of this streaming room in the streaming world? What a disgrace. Lo Ciji Lianmeng, I'm sorry. I didn't zip up my pants properly, so this dirty thing is exposed. Thorn Bloom, my dog ran out. I'm going to drag him back by the leash. The red bullet screen kept surging like a geyser. They were all defending the unfamiliar streamer, Jianghu. The viewers in the blue bullet screen were puzzled. This had always been the style of the live stream. Why was it like they had poked a hornet's nest today? This was like a group of old men who had been holding back for a long time, excitedly grabbing a handful of money and going to the brothel to have some fun. Unexpectedly, not only did they not see the erotic scene that they had imagined, but they were instead beaten up by a group of brainless burly men carrying sticks, to the point that they saw stars. The number of people on the blue screen was only 1/3 of the number of people on the red screen. Furthermore, the comments on the screen had a cooldown of half a minute, so they couldn't beat the red screen in terms of numbers. Many viewers in the blue bullet screen were so angry that they slammed the table or smashed the mouse while cursing. Are you crazy? They only wanted to look at the beauty to relieve their stress. Why did it seem like they had committed a grave mistake? Unbeknownst to him, the viewers in the red bullet screen were thinking the same thing. Which country bumpkin dared to behave atrociously here? Jianghu had been live streaming for many years. Although she had never granted any audience any special privileges, the old viewers consciously maintained the order in the live stream room. They even established a special alliance organization. The identities of the members of the organization were announced. Each of them was a big shot in their respective fields. Occasionally, someone would come over to cause trouble. That person had to be mentally prepared to be dealt with. Many years ago, a tearful post appeared on the forum. A viewer teased Jianghu. He posted a message on the bullet screen offering a reward, asking Jianghu to call him brother and learn how to moan in bed. A minute later, the man received an email telling him that he was fired. His wife wanted to divorce him. Chiue Bohi, I'm so angry. Although the host usually ignores this kind of trash, I'm still angry. After a while, another system notification popped up. The grievances of the Jianghu have been settled. I only hope that the heroes will lend a helping hand. Today, viewer Chiue Bohi posted a reward to viewer I have plenty of money. The reward has reached as high as 9 luxurious private helicopters. If the number of votes exceeds 50%, viewer I have plenty of money will be forcefully kicked out of the live stream room and banned for 30 days. Viewer Chiue Bohi quietly said to I have plenty of money, the 9 helicopters are ready. If you want to see an erotic dance, go back to your chicken coop. Don't pollute other people's view here. The audience was stunned. What was going on? The function of the live stream room after the upgrade was amazing. For a big shot, anything that could be solved with money was not a problem. In the next second, a small voting box popped up on everyone's screen. After 0.1 seconds, viewer I have plenty of money was kicked out of the live stream room. The idle viewers in the red bullet screen were all stunned. There was actually such a thing? The system made another announcement. Viewer I have plenty of money has been kicked out of the live stream room. Half of the reward will be given back to the viewers in the red dimension. A bright red treasure chest filled with gold jumped out. When everyone poked it, the gold coins in the treasure chest splashed all over the place. Although the reward was very little, it gave them a great sense of achievement. This was like snatching red packets in the WeChat group. Knowing that they could only snatch 0.01 yuan, there were still people who would happily snatch red packets from their phones. Seeing this, the viewers in the blue bullet screen could no longer sit still. Some of the more angry viewers were ready to kick someone out. When the live stream room was still in the hands of the lady from another dimension, she had given them the privilege of live stream room in order to win over the whales. According to the different levels of the aliases, the privileges they had were also different, such as kicking people, banning people, and so on. However, when those whales were rubbing their palms and getting ready to fight, they were notified by the system that they had no right to kick people or ban them. What the hell? Which B***starred had secretly removed their aliases. When the audience went out to take a look, they realized that their sock puppets had all become white. The nouveau riche sock puppets that were hanging high up had also been removed, leaving only the donation list and the active list. Seeing this, many of the nouveau riches' faces darkened and they started cursing. That was a privilege that they had spent a huge amount of money to obtain. What right did they have to remove their aliases? For the privilege of live stream room, who knew how much money they had given to the streamer? Now they wanted to turn their backs on them? In their dreams. Wuxiao Xixiang, where did this pheasant come from? UB**TCH, how did you remove my aliases? After a while, the system notification popped up again. All the grievances in the pugilistic world have been settled, I only hope that the heroes will lend a helping hand. Today, viewer Yiwu Yanling has issued a bounty to viewer Wuxiao Xixiang. The bounty has reached as high as 9 luxury private yachts. If the number of votes exceeds 50%, viewer Wuxiao Xixiang will be forcibly kicked out of the live stream room and banned for 30 days. Viewer Yiwu Yanling quietly said to Wuxiao Xixiang, get lost. Before the blue bullet screen viewer could recover from his shock, the screen turned black, and the web page indicated that he had been kicked out of the live stream room. Seeing this, the person was so angry that his heart hurt. Damn, you're crazy. The person could not help but roar. In the live stream room, the audience frantically snatched the treasure chests, and after getting them, they sent bullet screen messages to worship the big boss. Rows of "thank you, boss" filled the screen. Jiang Pengji was lowering her head to comfort the anxious wight, so she could not care about the live stream room at all. When the live stream room had just started, she realized that there were many privileged aliases in the live stream room. She guessed that it was done by the woman from another world. Jiang Pengji thought about it, and without a word, she removed all the aliases to avoid unnecessary trouble. She did not expect the combat power of her idle audience to be so strong. They kicked people one after another, and the red treasure chests came out one after another. Chapter 858. No, it might be even livelier than the new year. The viewers on the red bullet screen continuously kicked a few of the viewers on the blue bullet screen who were spewing vulgarities or insults. Their momentum was as high as a rainbow. The viewers on the blue bullet screen were aggrieved and furious. Some of the hot-tempered ones had already started cursing. Since the beginning of the live stream, these nouveau riche viewers had never suffered such grievances. Compete in throwing money? Have they ever been afraid? It was just a live stream. When had they ever suffered such grievances? Why did the rich like to watch live broadcasts and throw money at the streamers? Apart from truly liking the streamer and rewarding her, he also enjoyed the feeling of being flattered by the beautiful streamer and being envied by the other streamers. The nouveau riche enjoyed the process of being pretentious. They were here to enjoy, not to be abused. How infuriating. They had just entered the live broadcast room to look at the pretty girls as usual. Why did they suddenly encounter a group of strange lunatics who bit anyone they saw? At this moment, the audience from the two dimensions had yet to realize that something was wrong. They only thought that they were from the same world. Adhering to the principle of being slapped in the face, a blue bullet screen viewer could no longer sit still. As a nouveau riche, if he couldn't enjoy the pleasure of being pretentious, he might as well be a salted fish. Big brother Jiuling, Yi Wu Yenling, I'm warning you, don't cross the line. Do you really think you're the only one with money? After this bullet screen was sent, a system announcement popped up. The grievances of the Jianghu have been settled. I only hope that the heroes will lend a helping hand. Today, Spectator, Big Brother 90 has issued a bounty to Spectator, Night Dance Flame Spirit. The bounty has already reached 9 luxurious private yachts. If the number of votes exceeds 50%, viewer, Night Dance Flame Spirit, will be forcefully kicked out of the live broadcast room and will be banned for 30 days. Audience member Big Brother 90 quietly said to Night Dance Flaming Spirit, your parents didn't teach you well, so I'm here to teach you how to be a person. Do you really think you can act like an elephant just because you've stuck 2 cloves of garlic in you? Little guy, don't try to act cool with me. After posting this reward, the blue bullet screen audience clicked their tongues and revealed a mocking smile on their faces. If it weren't for the fact that he had suddenly lost his privileged avatar, he would have long since kicked all these noisy red bullet comments away. That's right, this audience member was one of the tycoons in the female broadcast room. However, he did not like to talk. Usually, he would quietly watch the live stream and silently send gifts. He was always in the top 10 of the gifts list. He was waiting for the audience, Night Dance Flaming Spirit, to be kicked out of the live broadcast room. He didn't expect her to be so stubborn and fight him head-on. As soon as his bounty notice popped up, the system prompted him that a bounty had been placed on him by the Spectator, Night Dance Flame Spirit. The grievances of the Jianghu have been settled. I only hope that the heroes will lend a helping hand. Today, Spectator, Night Dancing Flame Spirit has issued a bounty to Spectator, Big Brother 90. The bounty has already reached 9 luxurious private yachts. If the number of votes exceeds 50%, audience member, Big Brother 90, will be forcibly kicked out of the live broadcast room and banned for 30 days. Spectator, Night Dance Flaming Spirit, quietly said to Brother 90, heh. The other party didn't say any nonsense and just threw a cold, heh. Being provoked like this, the tycoon's temper immediately flared up. Just as he was about to increase the bounty, a system window popped up on the page. You have been kicked out of the live broadcast room, what the hell? The tycoon's curled up smile froze on his face. He was stunned for a second before he angrily smashed his phone. In the live broadcast room, the number of votes for Night Dance Flaming Spirit had barely reached 31%. Having successfully kicked out a blue tycoon, the idle spectators on the red bullet screen cheered like a tsunami. Watching a battle between tycoons, it couldn't get any better. Seeing this, the spectators on the blue bullet screen instantly felt bored and sullen. One after another, they began to retreat. They were here to look at the beauties and feast their eyes, not to watch a bunch of lunatics dance around. It was fine if the host was suddenly replaced, but the host that was replaced wasn't good-looking and didn't know the rules. What was there to watch in a live broadcast like this? Gentle girl high school student, where did these crazy people come from? Forget it, I'm not watching the live broadcast anymore. My lungs are about to explode. Throwing money to kick people without saying a word, what's the difference between this and a mad dog, biting whoever it catches? Some of the spectators on the blue bullet screen chose to quit. The lucky tycoons would not easily admit defeat. It was a great humiliation to be defeated in the field that they had the least amount of. More and more tycoons on the blue bullet screen joined the battle. The entire live broadcast room was full of gunpowder. The proportion of the spectators on the blue bullet screen dropped from a quarter to a fifth. Almost all the spectators on the red bullet screen joined in. Cafeteria Daffin Auntie, what's going on today? I thought I could only watch the live broadcast just now. Suddenly, there was a notification that there was an empty seat, so I quickly grabbed one. A bite of Shanghai Jing, I'm so excited that I'm crying. I didn't expect that a school dog could grab a seat in my lifetime. The big shots were still fighting. The idle spectators were more concerned about the content of today's live broadcast. The bullet screen was densely packed. There were too many of them. Every inch of the screen was occupied. The idle spectators had to choose to block the bullet screen to watch the live broadcast. They wouldn't know if they didn't watch, but once they saw it, it was terrible. Their daughter, White, looked like she was having a difficult birth. The idle spectators were extremely worried. They all sent bullet screen messages to inquire about the specific situation. Little Lucky, White hasn't shown signs of giving birth yet. It's her first and premature birth. The foal's situation isn't optimistic. White kept whining like a slave. From time to time, it stuck out its tongue to lick Jiangpunji's hand. Its teary eyes were filled with pity. Jiangpunji didn't have the extra energy to care about the situation in the live broadcast room. She looked at Wei Ci with a solemn expression. Not ready yet? She used her hand to comfort White. At the same time, her scalp went numb as she glanced at White's belly. Her heart was filled with anxiety. When she helped Jingxian deliver the baby, Jingxian would cry out in pain. However, White was just a horse. Other than whimpering like a slave, it couldn't use words to express its emotions. Jiang Pengji's heart ached even more when she saw it. Other than trying her best to comfort White, she couldn't help at all. Wei Ci had already strenuously straightened the position of the foal. Beads of hot sweat seeped out of his forehead. He said, "It's almost time." White seemed to understand Wei Ci's words. Its whimpering became louder and louder. Its breathing became heavy, and its belly contracted and expanded rapidly. The foal's two front hooves were pressed together. Its head was tightly attached to its forelimbs. It slowly gave birth with White's strength. Wei Ci said, "Lord, please help." White consumed too much energy. If it was squeezed for a long time without giving birth, the foal would easily suffocate. Jiang Pengji didn't use her upper arms to roll up her sleeves. She casually rolled up her sleeves. She didn't mind that it was dirty. She directly held the foal's front hooves with both hands. Chapter 859. After more than an hour of hard work, Wei Ci had become filthy. His entire body was covered in an indescribable stench. However, the way he treated the foal was unbelievably gentle. It was as if his entire body was enveloped in a layer of gentle light, causing others to subconsciously overlook his disheveled appearance. Jiang Pengji did not leave. Instead, she stared intently at his side profile. White turned its head. After a while, it found the foal at the side and whimpered. It was a beautiful, spotless, snow-white little fellow. It stuck out its tongue and licked the remaining mucus off the foal's body. Its gaze became gentler. One could not tell that it was fierce on the battlefield. Wei Ci looked at White and a pure smile appeared on his face. He stretched out his hand and stroked its mane. No one knew what he was thinking. Although it was born prematurely by a month, the foal had inherited its parents' excellent bloodline. After a while, it tried to stand up. It spent some effort to break its umbilical cord. It staggered as it tried to get up from the ground. Its attempts were futile. Outside the stable, Li Yun stared at the foal. Seeing it fail a few times, he was so anxious that he wanted to rush over and help it. Wei Ci saw his expression and laughed. Let it get up on its own. Han Mei, don't come over and cause trouble. Li Yun was depressed for a while after hearing that. Then, he mustered his spirit and continued to look at the foal with great interest. Although it was a newborn foal, if it grew up successfully, it would definitely surpass its master. Li Yun had picked up a treasure. Wei Ci stood up. Perhaps he had knelt for too long. After he stood up, he still felt a little dizzy. He calmed himself down and waited for his legs to regain feeling before calmly leaving the stable. He took a dry towel from the stableman. Wei Ci said to the stableman, keep watch here. In about an hour, White's placenta will come out. Remember to keep it so that it won't be swallowed by White. If the placenta has not come out after an hour, remember to send someone to look for me or a vet. The stableman nodded and bowed in acknowledgement, but in his heart, he secretly admired Wei Ci. He was a commoner. In his heart, the concept of nobility and inferiority was rather vague. If it was another scholar, he would definitely mock Wei Ci for doing such lowly work. However, the stableman felt that Wei Ci knew a lot. I'll remember it. Wei Ci wiped the filth off his arms and washed his hands carefully. The stench was still lingering at the tip of his nose. He said to Jianghu, my lord, I'll go back to the residence first. It was very impolite to look disheveled. Jianghu nodded in agreement. Wei Ci used a clean handkerchief to wipe the sweat on his forehead. He heaved a long sigh of relief and returned to the manor. Seeing that Wei Ci had left, Jianghu said to Li Yun, who was smiling foolishly, Han Mei, I'm leaving first. Li Yun said, farewell, my lord. She turned her head and continued to be infatuated with the pony. Jianghu shook her head. Li Yun's obsession with good horses was deep in his bones. There was no way to save him. At this time, she saw the audience asking if the newborn foal had a name. If it didn't have a name, then they would come up with one. She thought for a moment and turned to ask Li Yun. What are you going to name the horse? A few months ago, Li Yun had ordered this colt from her. As the owner, Li Yun naturally had the right to name the colt. Since ancient times, which good colt didn't have an awe-inspiring name? Not to mention, Fu Wang's peerless colt had an eye-catching name, Chasing Lightning. As for Jianghu's steed, Cough, that was definitely an accident. They were obviously rare peerless horses, but one was called White and the other was called Little White. It sounded so cute, where was the awe-inspiring name? Li Yun scratched his head. He wasn't good at naming things, so he kicked the ball back to her. Why don't you give it a name, my lord? Jianghu was silent for a moment. The audience in the streaming room went crazy with bullet screens. Please don't let the streamer name it. She's bad at naming things. Unfortunately, their thoughts didn't reach Li Yun. What they were most worried about still happened. Jianghu thought for a while and said seriously, look at its snow-white body. Why don't we call it White? Li Yun, my lord, can I take back my request for a name? Jianghu asked, is it not good? Li Yun didn't dare to say no. If he said no, Wan would find out and cause trouble for him. No. It's a good name. I can tell it's a beautiful white horse just by hearing it. Jianghu left contentedly. Li Yun looked at the colt in the stable that staggered to its feet and sighed with melancholy. Although the name White doesn't sound good, it can't be changed when the Lord gives it a name. Li Yun looked at his future comrade with melancholy. He nagged the stableman to take good care of White. The stableman nodded and bowed in agreement, not daring to object. It was his fault for carelessly letting a poisonous snake into the stable and scaring the pregnant horse. His lord didn't pursue the matter, so he should be grateful. Now he had to be extra careful and take good care of the newborn colt to make up for his mistake. On the other side, Wei Ci hopped onto an inconspicuous path and returned to his mansion. When the servant saw him in such a sorry state, he almost jumped in fright. Which cesspool did his Langjun fall into? How did he end up like this? Wei Ci said calmly, "Go and prepare some hot soup and clean clothes." "Yes, I'll go and prepare now." The servant was very efficient. Wei Ci immersed his body in water of suitable temperature. Only then did his sore and swollen muscles relax. He washed himself with pig fungus twice to wash away the strange smell on his body. He changed into clean clothes and carefully burned some incense. After a while, he heard the gatekeeper report that someone was visiting. "Who is it?" Wei Ci took the visiting card and looked at the handwriting on it. He smiled. "Quickly let Yumo in." He had originally planned to catch up with Qingjing, but he didn't expect the incident with White to happen. He was so busy that he almost forgot. He had just finished bathing, so his hair was still wet. It was very impolite to meet a guest like this. However, he and Qingjing were from the same sect and had a close relationship, so it was fine. Qingjing saw his expression and teased him with a smile. "We're not in Langi now. Why are you becoming more and more lazy?" Wei Ci replied with a smile, "How can I be lazy when I see a gentleman?" Qingjing almost rolled his eyes in his heart. If Wei Ci had to bathe and burn incense every time he saw him, why didn't he receive such treatment in the past? "You're getting sharper and sharper." Qingjing smiled. "Usually, you don't leave your medicine alone. Now that you're full of vigor, you should really show those who are worried about you. The land here is really good for nurturing people. Look at your complexion, you look much better than before. I'll be relieved if I know." Although Wei Ci was the last person to become Master Yuanjing's disciple, he had been studying in Langi Academy longer than Qingjing, who was the first disciple. When Wei Ci was born, his 8 characters were taboo. If Master Yuanjing hadn't coincidentally visited the Wei residence, there might not have been Wei Ci. Strictly speaking, Master Yuanjing not only taught Wei Ci, but he also saved his life. They were both teachers and friends. In Wei Ci's heart, Master Yuanjing was also equivalent to his other father. "I've been away from home for a few years. I wonder how teacher is doing now." In his previous life, Wei Ci had moved to Zhongzhao's Bianzhou with his clansmen. He hadn't seen his teacher Master Yuanjing for more than 20 years. Chapter 860. Now that he was reborn, Wei Ci was always concerned about his teacher's recent situation. Unfortunately, the world was becoming more and more chaotic, and a letter was comparable to 10,000 gold pieces. The round trip would take at least half a year. If they were unlucky, they might even lose contact with their letters. Wei Ci had not received his teacher's reply for a long time. Qingjing was under Huang Song's command. Huang Song's territory was in Haozhou, which was only a month's journey away from Langi County. Communication was relatively convenient there. He said, "Recently, teacher has had many happy events. He's doing well." "Oh. What happy event?" Wei Ci was delighted. If Master Yuanjing could live a good life, he would feel better. Last year, Langi Academy recruited a student with great spiritual energy, and the teacher was overjoyed. Although this man was born in a poor family and had no parents, his talent was amazing and his appearance was not ordinary. He was born with a cinnabar dot on his forehead, so Wunyang took a fancy to him at first sight. You also know that teacher dotes on Wunyang and has always been worried about her marriage. Now that he had met a suitable candidate, how could he not be happy? Acting as a go-between and helping the two of them get married. The Wunyang that Qingjing mentioned was Master Yuanjing's youngest daughter. Her maiden name was Zhu Qingming. Wunyang had always been fond of Wei Ci. Unfortunately, the falling flower was in love with Wei Ci, but the heartless stream was heartless. The goddess had Mingxiang, but King Wang had no feelings for her. She was not a vulgar woman. When Wei Ci explicitly rejected her, she felt uncomfortable for a while and then let go. When he heard that Wunyang had been betrothed to someone, Wei Ci first felt happy for her, but then he frowned. The man was born in a poor family and had no parents. His conditions were indeed a little poor. The teacher loved Wunyang so much. How could he choose such a son-in-law for her? He had always regarded himself as Wunyang's elder and even treated her as his daughter. In Wei Ci's eyes, Wunyang's husband was naturally equivalent to his son-in-law. Usually, Wei Ci made friends regardless of one's family background. However, the standards for a father-in-law to judge his son-in-law and to make friends were different. Is this the teacher's choice or Wunyang's idea? Wei Ci knew how much his teacher loved his daughter. He wished he could pluck the stars and the moon and bring them to Wunyang. How could such a loving father choose such a husband for his daughter? Cheng Jing understood the meaning behind Wei Ci's words and instantly understood the hidden meaning in his words. He said, although teacher loves Wunyang dearly, he won't indulge her without principles. Since he had agreed to this marriage, it was clear that his teacher was also satisfied. Come to think of it, what was so special about that person? At the end of the day, a teacher is also a father, and I still hope for my children's happiness. Wei Ci asked again, what is that person's name and where does he live? In his previous life, he had moved to Zhongzhou with his clansmen, but he had never stopped contacting his friends. He had always kept in touch with them through letters. He vaguely remembered that Wunyang married one of his teacher's students. That person was a young scholar in Langia County and was known for his talent. However, after the second marriage, Wunyang didn't live a happy life. In the end, she divorced and went home for some reason. Cheng Jing thought for a moment and said, I heard that he's from Zhongzhou's Biyao. His surname is Nia and his name is Sun. His courtesy name is Qingyun. Nia Sun. Wei Ci furrowed his brows and rummaged through his memories, but he could not find any trace of it. Cheng Jing asked, Zi Shao, have you heard of this person? Wei Ci shook his head. I've never heard of him. Perhaps this person is a late bloomer and only became famous recently. Whether it was in his previous life or this life, Wei Ci had never heard of this person called Nia Sun. This was suspicious. One must know that Wei Ci had lived in Zhongzhou for many years in his previous life. Although he was an invisible person who was not valued, he still visited his relatives and friends. To put it bluntly, there was almost no famous scholar in Zhongzhou's Biyao that he had not met. If Nia Sun's talent could catch the eye of Master Yuanjing, there was no reason for him to be unknown in his previous life. As for the inborn cinnabar between his eyebrows, such an obvious mark, if Wei Ci had really seen or heard of it, it was impossible for him not to have any impression. Could it be that this Nia Sun had only appeared in this life? Thinking of this, Wei Ci felt relieved. The difference between his previous life and this life was too great. Even the big picture of the world had been distorted, let alone ordinary people. However, this person was born in Zhongzhou's Biyao. What is his relationship with the Nia family in Biyao? The Wei family in Langia, which Wei Ci belonged to, was a branch of the Wei family in Biyao. The former had fallen, but the latter was still flourishing. There were two aristocratic families in Biyao. One was the Wei family, and the other was the Nia family. The two families had been connected by marriage for generations and had a close relationship. Of course, this was not the main point. The main point was that the Nia family became a hegemon in troubled times and was the third last feudal power to be eliminated by His Majesty. Thinking back to that time, there were no less than 20 feudal lords in the world. For the Nia family to be able to survive until then, it was obvious how powerful they were. Of course, after the Nia family surrendered, they did not stop stirring shit up. Thinking of this, Wei Ci's eyes had a hint of coldness. In the case of Crown Prince Jianghu, in the 18th year of Emperor Yongchen of the Jiang dynasty, the Nie family secretly added fuel to the fire. Other than large families like the Nie family and the Wei family, there were many other aristocratic families involved. If they had not instigated, schemed, and tried to sow discord, the outcome would not have been like that. He and His Majesty were responsible for their improper upbringing, but at the end of the day, these ambitious aristocratic families were the main culprits. Qingjing smiled and said, according to the rumors, Nie Sun was adopted by a branch of the Nie family. If he was born in the Nie family, how could he be considered to have a humble background? It was precisely because he was adopted, his background was unknown, and his adoptive parents died early that Nie Sun was looked down upon. Wei Ci said, that's true. It's just that, this person is related to the Nie family. Why did he come to Dongqing to study? Master Yuanjing's reputation was indeed resounding, and he was comparable to a famous teacher in the world. However, aristocratic families like the Nie family had always implemented clan education and arrogantly thought that people like Master Yuanjing were just unorthodox. Even if Master Yuanjing's students were all top-notch, they were still criticized by these people. Nie Sun came to Dongqing to study, and he even became Master Yuanjing's son-in-law. Wasn't this a slap in the face to the Nie family? Qingjing said, this. I vaguely heard that Nie Sun is not from Zhongzhou, and his hometown is in Dongqing. Perhaps, he came here to look for his relatives. Although Nie Sun's surname is Nie, the Nie family does not acknowledge it. He stayed in the Nie family and suffered from both sides, so he might as well come out and be independent. Heroes emerge in troubled times. Nie Sun was really talented, and he could become famous even after leaving the Nie family. Wei Ci nodded and did not say anything. He was not curious about Nie Sun, and he only asked a few more questions because he was Wunyang's husband. Naturally, there were endless things to talk about when they reunited. Wei Ci asked about the others, and Qingjing hesitated and said, Wenbin sent a letter recently, and it seems that he wants to go to Zhe County to take a look. Wenbin was naturally referring to Han Yu. Wei Ci remembered that Han Yu worked under Su Pei in his previous life, so he was not surprised that Han Yu went to Zhe County. What about Xiaoyin? I haven't heard from Xiaoyin for a long time. Wei Ci asked again. He remembered that Lu Jing sought refuge with Huang Song in his previous life. Huang Song was defeated and killed himself, and Lu Jing guarded the last isolated city and refused to surrender. When the city was breached, he cried blood and cursed, and jumped down from the city wall. If there were no changes in this life, then Xiaoyin would have gone to find Huang Song. To Wei Ci's surprise, Qingjing did not know Lu Zheng's whereabouts. Half a year ago, Xiaoyin said that he wanted to go to the alliance meeting, but there is no other news until now. Wei Ci choked, and then shook his head helplessly. Chapter 861. Both Qingjing and Wei Ci had written letters to their schoolmates. But everyone had their own plans. Han Yu and Lu Zheng had their own opinions. It couldn't be forced. Old friends reunited. Even though they belonged to two different camps, they could still talk happily as long as it didn't involve official business. After talking for a while, they seemed to have returned to their student days in the academy. The estrangement that they hadn't seen each other for years had disappeared and they were closer. At the same time, Jiang Pengji was also very happy that day because the idle fish in the streaming room took all the laughs. She wore a bamboo hat leisurely, carried a fishing rod and basket, and found a place where no one was around to fish. She said she was fishing to add to the meal for her subordinates, but what was the truth? She just didn't want to stay in the government office to deal with paperwork. Fishing while watching the battle between the red and the blue in the streaming room. It was a joy in life. Obviously, the viewers on the red bullet screen were Jiang Pengji's fans, and the viewers on the blue bullet screen were her original viewers. From the beginning of the battle between the tycoon and the tycoon, the viewers on the red bullet screen fought steadily and steadily, which made the viewers on the blue bullet screen fly into a rage. In the words of the viewers on the red bullet screen, "I just like to see you fly into a rage but can't do anything to me." It could be said that this operation was already very cool. I really don't know who led these idle fish astray. Their combat power is actually so strong. No matter how fierce the battle between the two sides was, Jianghu was as steady as a mountain. She half lay on the giant rock by the stream and squinted her eyes to fish. In the eyes of the viewers on the red bullet screen, Jianghu's behavior couldn't be more normal. Their streamer was so aloof and rarely interacted with them. If she interacted with them one day, the idle fish viewers would panic and be afraid that the streamer had been transmigrated by someone else. Even if Jianghu was so aloof and distant, they still loved her very much. On the contrary, the viewers on the blue bullet screen became more and more bored as they watched. They chose to leave one after another, cursing before they left. How cui shao jia, let's go. What kind of trash streaming is this? You didn't even say a word after watching it for so long. Ingu Mao, I thought there would be some special streaming, but I didn't see anything after watching it for so long. Go ahead and fish, at least say something. You're so aloof. Do you think everyone wants to watch your streaming? To put it bluntly, at least the previous host knew how to dance erotically, tease the audience, and liven up the atmosphere. The current one was a block of wood, stupid, and ugly. What a waste of my traffic. Disappointing. Of course I'm forgiving her. I heard that this live stream is very powerful. I've been driving for more than 20 years and have never been censored by the country. I'm here because of its reputation. How is it censored? Forget it, it seems like I won't be able to see any interesting content. I'll leave first, the traffic can't keep up. Heavenly visitor, I feel cheated. I'm leaving too. Lang de Fini, it's a little strange. These red bullet screens seem to know this streamer. They're as crazy as dogs. Most of the blue bullet screen viewers chose to cross and leave in disappointment. After half a day, only 10% of the blue bullet screen viewers remained. Of course, this 10% of the audience was either bored out of their minds, or bored out of their minds. In any case, it was very difficult to get a spot in this live broadcast room. Being able to get a spot meant that they had fast hands and good internet connection. The bullet screen war in the streaming room went on for a long time. Jianghu fished for a long time, but her fishing basket was still empty. Some salted fish could not stand it anymore and urged Jianghu to give up. Nuzwang Xingheng, streamer, you'd better stop struggling. You can't even catch a shrimp, let alone a big fish. Accept the reality. Jianghu's momentum was too strong. Wild animals were far more sensitive than humans. Where she was, all fishes and shrimps were basically extinct. Every time she came out to fish, other people would catch one, but she always got nothing. But fishing was about loneliness, not fish. Jianghu sat cross-legged, holding the fishing rod in her right hand, her left hand on her knee, and her chin propped up. There was no one around, so she did not need to send bullet screens. She spoke directly to the audience. I see that the streaming room is especially lively today. You guys don't get along very well. What do you mean by not getting along very well? The salted fish were stunned, and it took them a while to react. Little angel, people with different beliefs cannot make plans together. There's no way we can get along. Streamer, do you know where these bumpkins on the blue bullet screen came from? The originally good atmosphere had unexpectedly turned into a mess. If I had known this would happen, would not have leveled up. I'd rather fight with countless salted fish for 15 spots in the streaming room than stay in the same streaming room with these losers all day. Gue kai guofengxio, I don't want to get along. I'm so angry that I want to jump up and beat their heads. I'm so angry. Jianghu rolled her eyes in front of everyone, like a salted fish that was stranded on the shore. She yawned. People from 2 dimensions are fighting for a limit of 850,000 people. People of all kinds can sneak in. I can't do anything about it. It depends on your hand's speed. The streaming room has a limit of 850,000 people. Whoever is faster will be able to get it. The group of salted fish, wait, they seem to have overlooked something. Host, can you repeat what you just said one more time? That's a lot of information. Let's highlight the words, 2 dimensions. Jilan Yushu, wait, streamer, don't scare me. What do you mean by 2 dimensions? Could it be that the color represents the dimensions, the red bullet screen is for allies, and the blue bullet screen is for people from another dimension? Jiang Pengji smiled and said, why would I scare you? It's really 2 dimensions. Whether it was the salted fish in the red bullet screen or the defeated soldiers in the blue bullet screen, both sides were so shocked that their eyes widened and their jaws dropped to the ground. They had been fighting for half a day. Both sides were furious. One by one, they said that they wanted human flesh. They fought it out. However, no matter how powerful the big shots were, they could not find any clues. It was as if the people on the other side had appeared out of thin air, so, they were actually people from another dimension? Chami Dalao, wait, did I go too far just now? Did they all die? People from 2 dimensions can actually fight in the same streaming room and watch the streamer from a 3rd dimension. This is epic making fate. Hello, my friends. Duxing Yufeng, if I knew this would happen, I would have been gentler just now. In the sea of red bullet screens, a small group of blue bullet screens occasionally floated by, but they were immediately caught. Fanlu, hello, my friends from the other dimension. Xinjia, friends on the other side, look over. The bullet screens here were very exciting. Due to the huge disparity in the number of people, the blue bullet screen was swaying and trembling in the sea of red bullet screens. It looked very pitiful. Although the viewers on the blue bullet screen were very annoying, they were able to tolerate all kinds of people. They would not kill a person from the same dimension in one go. No matter what group it was, there would always be good and bad. They had to be tolerant and get rid of the weeds. However, the salted fish's way of thinking was always different from normal people. One of the audience in the red bullet screen could not help but complain. Chapter 862. Why did the viewers from 2 different dimensions use Chinese characters? It was a good question, but Jiang Pengji couldn't answer it. She made up a story with her eyes wide open. Maybe it's because Chinese characters are the universal language of the entire dimension? The viewers in the 2 streaming rooms were speechless after hearing it. What she said made sense. I'm actually speechless. A certain viewer on the blue bullet screen spoke shakily. He was mentally prepared to be kicked out of the streaming room by the big boss on the red bullet screen. Buxian Xian, in the past, there were always people who said that English was the universal language of the world. Now I can hold my head high and say that Chinese characters are the universal language of the entire dimension. I'm so touched. I hope the country can take this seriously and abolish CT4 and CT6. In the sea of red bullet screens, the blue bullet screen was particularly eye-catching. It even received countless likes. The viewers on the red bullet screen cheered for the blue bullet screen. CT4 and CT6 were all tearful after saying too much. The 2 groups of people who were fighting each other to the death were now tearful when they saw each other from the same place. The 2 sides had a friendly discussion about the 2 dimensions. However, the restrictions of the streaming room were too great. They couldn't talk about topics related to politics. They racked their brains and could only figure out the timeline of the 2 dimensions. Other than some differences in historical events, the general situation was actually the same. Many quick-witted and ill-intentioned people had already come up with crooked ideas. Since the situation of the 2 dimensions was so similar, but the development was different, could they help each other? Thinking about the more popular plagiarism category in online novels, maybe they could imitate it. Who knows, it might become popular. Anyway, it was 2 different worlds. Even if someone pointed out plagiarism, it would be extremely difficult for the 2 dimensions to pursue the matter of plagiarism. To put it nicely, they could learn from each other and develop together. They couldn't bear to let the magnificent civilization disappear just like that. Jiang Pengji casually glanced at the bullet screen in the streaming room. Many viewers also noticed it. Some felt that plagiarism was wrong. Some felt that since they were from two dimensions, what was wrong with exchanging civilizations? Anyway, the original author couldn't cross the dimension wall to pursue the matter and sue. Online novels were all like this. No one would know even if they plagiarized. They forgot that this was Jiang Pengji's streaming room. As a streamer in a level 6 streaming room, her authority was higher than before. After a while, those in the audience who were discussing the feasibility of borrowing were all kicked out. They were stunned for a moment. When they looked at the system notification again, their faces couldn't help but twitch. Because you have violated the rules of the live broadcast room, you have been kicked out of the live broadcast room by the host. To be honest, this was the first time Jiang Pengji took the initiative to kick someone since she took over the streaming room. Even a fool would know that she was a little angry. Not only were there blue comments, but there were also quite a number of red comments. Jiang Pengji had a warm smile on her face. According to the federal law on the protection of original works of literature and all kinds of property rights, the crime of plagiarism is very serious. The minimum penalty is 3 years, and the maximum is life. Even if they weren't sued by the original creator, 90% of the profits would still belong to the original creator, and they would have to compensate for their mental distress. If you want to use it as a reference, I won't object, but please ask the original author to personally authorize it. Furthermore, you can request the government to take the lead and establish a special alliance to regulate the cultural exchange between the two planes. After that, she got up to pack up her fishing rod and basket, preparing to go home. After hearing what Jiang Pengji said, some of the audience blushed. Some felt that she was meddling in other people's business, while others strongly supported her. After all, the streaming room was someone else's territory, and the audience had to act according to the basic rules. After going through half a day of battle, the audience from the two planes could barely communicate calmly. Seeing this, Jiang Pengji revealed a faint smile and leisurely returned to the city. Unbeknownst to her, the matter of the streaming room had grown wings and occupied the headlines of major websites. It was fine if it was a cross-dimensional live broadcast, but now she could communicate with the audience from another plane on the same streaming platform. She was going to go to heaven. The red comments were relatively calm. Although Jiang Pengji's streaming room was a little strange and often showed all kinds of violent scenes, on the whole, it was still positive. Many directors who filmed ancient wars liked to edit the content of the live broadcast and use it as a reference. Nowadays, the film and television industry preferred to shoot indoors more and more. They used the green screen wherever it was useful, and they rarely spent energy on shooting real scenes. In general, Jiang Pengji's streaming room was more positive in the eyes of the public. However, it was different for the viewers in the blue bullet screen. As soon as the news spread, it was like a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples. Abuse and mockery had the absolute upper hand. Thanks to the female transmigrator, the streaming room had been labeled as despicable. In addition, the streaming room had been around for more than 20 years. Many of the audience had a fixed impression of it. Once it was mentioned, they could not help but curse or mock it, as if it was a pile of stinky feces. After such a long time, the audience in the streaming room had been fixed. Now that the streamer had suddenly changed, not only did it not attract new readers, but it also drove away this part of the audience who liked beautiful women. As a result, for a long time, the ratio of red to blue in Jiang Pengji's streaming room hovered around 9:1 or 19:1. The red bullet screen viewers were overjoyed. The cake was only so big. The streaming room's upper limit was 850,000. They could not wait for all the upper limit to be theirs. Yes, the streamer was theirs. No unruly people could snatch her away. Jiang Pengji did not care about this. She did not care which plane the audience was from, as long as they were not from her original plane. As a general of the Federation and the commander of 1/10 of the army, she had now been reduced to a small farm owner. Her fate was miserable. Humming a tune, Jiang Pengji walked into the city under the orange afterglow of the sunset. The streets were still bustling with business. The street vendors were shouting and hawking, and children were chasing and laughing. The child who was leading accidentally bumped into Jianghu. She did not move an inch, but the child fell. There are carriages and pedestrians everywhere. You naughty children, if you want to play, go somewhere else. Jianghu's face was fierce. She picked up the child who had fallen. The child was sobbing. A woman in the distance saw it and was scared out of her wits. She hurriedly ran over to carry the child away. She was so scared that her shoulders were trembling. The woman saw Jianghu's face clearly. It was as if someone had stolen her voice. She could not say anything. Jianghu was usually very close to the people. Many people knew what she looked like. The woman had seen her before. My son is naughty and has disturbed the prefecture magistrate. As the woman knelt, the 2 or 3-year-old child in her arms knelt as well. Jianghu had a very good memory. She saw the woman's face and found it somewhat familiar. You are? Listening to the woman's words, she was obviously not an ordinary village woman. Chapter 863. Jianghu was surprised. She lifted her hand to help the woman up and said with a smile, "This isn't a good place to talk. Why don't we sit in the restaurant next door?" Judging from the woman's appearance, she lived a hard life. She lived frugally and only ate 1 meal a day. The child beside her was raised well. He was fair, chubby, and adorable. Even the clothes he wore were made of fine cotton. Fine cotton was not expensive, but for a peasant family with an average family, it was a huge expense. The woman hesitated for a moment, then beamed with joy. She carried the child in her arms and followed Jianghu to the nearby reception house. The reception house was opened in all the towns and cities in Wanzhou. Its reputation was improving day by day. The dishes developed by the chefs were also changing day by day. Although it was geared towards middle and high-class customers, ordinary people could occasionally have a meal if they gritted their teeth. The woman followed Jianghu to a private room. She and the old housekeeper lived frugally to support their young master. They had never been to the reception house. Order more of what you want to eat. This child. If I remember correctly, is he the one protected by his mother? How many people had Jianghu saved during the earthquake in Shangjing? Most of the people in Xiangyang district today had followed her to escape from Shangjing to this place. The woman nodded with tears in her eyes. Her eyes were bloodshot, but she did not look like she had been wronged. Instead, she looked excited. She had always remembered Jianghu, but she was a busy person. How could she remember her? She had just reminded her, but she did not have high hopes. She did not expect Jianghu to be right. Yes, it is my young master. The woman nodded excitedly. The chubby child in her arms twisted in confusion. He looked at Jianghu and then at the woman who was holding him. He did not understand what had happened. He could only step on the thigh of the woman who was kneeling. He tiptoed and tried to wipe her tears with his chubby white paws. How have you been all these years? Jianghu looked at the child and dug out the relevant fragments from her memory. She remembered that when she rescued the child from the ruins, the child was protected by a woman who had her back curled up. If the woman had not protected him with her body, her spine, and her head, arms, and chest, he would have died a long time ago. A pure smile appeared on the woman's face. It's all thanks to the prefecture overseer's good governance that I was able to survive in this world with my master. In the past, there were 20 people in the mansion, but after the earthquake, only 3 survived. A wet nurse, a housekeeper, and a 2-month-old child. The world outside was too chaotic. The 3 of them were old, weak, women, and children. There was no way for them to seek refuge with their relatives. They could only follow Jianghu to Xiangyang district. The old housekeeper did the accounting and outside work, while she knitted sweaters or embroidered some patterns at home to sell. She lived frugally on weekdays. After deducting the small amount of rent paid to the county headquarters, the remaining money was enough for them to live on. The two of them were loyal and devoted servants. They would rather work themselves a little harder than suffer the slightest injustice to the child. Therefore, among the three of them, only the child was wearing clothes made of fine cotton. Jiang Pengji said, "You're the wet nurse." "If I remember correctly, there was an old man who survived." The woman said, "Prefecture overseer, you have a good memory." "That was my wife's dowry butler." Jiang Pengji said to the child, "Come here." The child was very guilty. He had just bumped into someone. How would he dare to take the initiative to approach her? The woman encouraged him, and he ran to Jiang Pengji hesitantly. Jiang Pengji carried him and bounced him up and down. The 2-year-old child was quite heavy. I remember that the child's family seems to be extraordinary. Have you never thought of bringing the child to look for his relatives after so many years? Before the earthquake, land in Shangjing was expensive. Those who could buy property there were either rich or respectable. Logically speaking, the child's parents were not ordinary people. The woman said, "I had this plan for a long time, but there were wars everywhere in the past. The housekeeper and I didn't dare to bring the young master to take risks. Therefore, it has been delayed until now. I plan to save enough money in a few years to set off to look for my relatives, so as not to delay the young master's initiation." In the whole of Dongqing, what place was safer than Wanzhou? The lion was entrenched and heavily guarded. The prefecture magistrate loved the people like his own children. He governed the whole of Wanzhou in an orderly manner. Outside the boundaries of Wanzhou, there were either wars or all kinds of disasters. How could she and the old housekeeper protect the young master? Jiang Pengji carried the child and put some food in his bowl. "What is this child's background? Since I saved him and met him on the street today, it seems that we are fated. If I can help, I can send someone to pass a message to the child's relatives and ask them to bring the child back as soon as possible. Looking at you, these years have not been easy." The woman's eyes turned red again. She kowtowed and said, "Thank you, prefecture magistrate. If there is a next life, I will definitely tie a ring to repay your kindness." Wiping away her tears, the woman continued, "My master is from the Chui family of Chongzhou." "The Chui family of Chongzhou?" Jiang Pengji carried the child in one hand and ordered the food on the table with the other. What a coincidence. Chongzhou was her father, Lu Shi's territory. As for the Chui family, Jiang Pengji had vaguely heard rumors about them. The Chui family had been in Chongzhou for a long time. They were the local tyrants, but they were not a proper noble family. They had resources, but they were looked down upon. The reason was simply because the Chui family had a close relationship with the northern borderline. They did business in both places. They were even fence-sitters. They leaned toward whichever side the wind blew. Jiang Pengji corresponded with Lu Shi. He did not have a high opinion of the Chui family. He even said that they reeked of money. How could they be noble and virtuous like scholars? At first glance, the Chui family was aligned with power and money. No wonder Lu Shi had such a bad impression of them. The woman nodded vigorously. She said, "My wife is the eldest daughter-in-law of the Chui family's first branch. Chongzhou and the northern borderline were borderline. It had always been a place of constant conflict. Even if the Chui family was on good terms with the northern borderline, they could not stop the bandits from running amok. The Chui family sent the eldest daughter-in-law to Shangjing to await delivery. Who knew that they would encounter a rare earthquake? Jiang Pengji had a change of heart. My father is the prefecture magistrate of Chongzhou. What a coincidence. I will write a letter to my father and ask the Chui family to send someone to bring you back. For the woman, it was a difficult task, but for Jiang Pengji, it was as easy as lifting a finger. After the woman heard it, she kowtowed to Jiang Pengji a few times in excitement. She almost spoke incoherently. Jiang Pengji looked at the child and smiled meaningfully. She inquired about the residence of the woman and the child and accompanied them for dinner. Only then did she return to the district headquarters under the thin and cold moonlight. She said to the people beside her, "Summon Wenjing, Zisher, and Zixiao. Tell them that I have something to discuss with them." The others were not in Xiangyang district. Jiang Pengji could only summon the 3 advisors first. Jiang Pengji waited for a while. Qiguan Rang, Feng Zhen, and Wei Ci arrived one after another. The 3 of them looked at each other. They did not know why Jiang Pengji summoned them alone. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.